A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, Easy Aces.
Mr. and Mrs. Ace was served with a summons by Mr. Neff, whose lot Jane had been trying to sell, not knowing she was furthering the sale of a lot Mr. Ace had. After giving Jane a $250 advance, Mr. Neff found that it was Mr. Ace's lot that was sold. Our scene now is the next evening at the Ace's bungalow, and we find Ace nervously pacing the floor as Jane and Marge sit by. Listen.
Isn't that awful? Well, one time I need my lawyer and he has to be away on vacation. I send him a wire and he wires back to let one of the partners handle the case. That's a fine lawyer. I've been doing business with him for 8 years, and this is the one time I really need him, and he gives me that.
My sister Joan's little boy is going to study to be a lawyer.
Maybe you'd suggest we wait.
What?
Maybe you'd like to have the case postponed so he can...
Oh, all right now, enough of that.
Well...
Don't get so worked up. They'll give you a good lawyer. It's a big firm, isn't it? Manfrey, Kelly and Manfrey?
Yes, it's a big firm, but it's O.J. Manfrey that has always handled my business.
Which one's coming out tonight?
Which one do you think they're giving me?
Not. Oh, don't tell me.
Yes, Kelly. Well, what's funny about that?
Well, I suppose he's as good as the rest of them.
I doubt it.
Don't worry about it until you talk to the man. You're not worried about losing this case, are you?
Am I worried? Do you think I want to lose that $10,000?
But this man, Neff, hasn't a leg to stand on. He can't prove anything.
With a clever lawyer, he can prove anything. That's why I wanted to have my regular lawyer handling this for me. I don't know what Neff got up his sleeve. I don't know how Jane committed herself.
I did not.
You did not what?
I didn't do anything. I told you everything that we said and everything that I did.
Now, look, Jane, I'm going to have trouble enough with this lawyer. I feel it. Will you please try to remember if you left anything out, anything that Neff could hold against you, anything at all. Think hard. Think. Well, don't look so horrified. I'm asking you.
That's not horrified. That's thinking.
Stop laughing, Marge. Let me try to get at the bottom of this myself if I'm going to have trouble with a lawyer.
Oh, what trouble. You cross more bridges. Why don't you wait till he gets here and you tell him your story?
He knows the story. I wrote it out in detail and handed it into their office. He ought to be acquainted with every phase of it. But you know how a strange lawyer is. Why did that guy have to be out of town at a time
Well, if you'd have notified him in advance if you were going to be sued, I'm sure he'd have stayed in town.
Those are the breaks I get. The one really big deal I put over, and this has to happen. And I took all the precautions to keep this a secret from her, and still it gets balled up. And what a balling up. Being sued for heaven only knows what.
Yes, what is he suing for?
Not a thing, dear.
What?
I can't think of a thing.
About what? What are you
Well, didn't you just tell me to try to think of something that I forgot to tell you that I did with Mr. Neff?
Oh, and you can't think of
Not a thing. I told you everything we said and did. I'm sure of it.
Oh, I wish I could be that sure. If he springs some surprise on us, something that you were a party to that slipped your mind.
No, nothing slipped off my mind. I told you everything. I'm sure of it.
I'll tell you what, Jane. Why don't you get yourself a pencil, and if anything comes up, make a note of it. Something you might have forgotten.
I didn't forget a thing, Marge.
Well, we all make mistakes. Some little thing you might have overlooked, you know.
Not a thing. I'm sure
Oh,
of it.
Marge is right. Take a pencil and carry it with you. And if anything pops into your mind, make a note of it.
Well, if you want me to, dear, but I'm sure of
You
nothing.
can't be too sure. You might think of one thing that might save the whole day. Here, take this pencil.
All right. Oh, that's a small pencil. Haven't you got a bigger one?
Oh, you're not so sure now. You might think of a lot of things then. Is that what you... Oh, there he is. I'll let him in.
Do you want to make this private, or shall I go to my room?
No, it's not necessary. I haven't anything to hide.
Miss Grace, I believe.
Yes. Are you Mr. Kelly?
That's me.
Come here, Mr. Kelly. I've been waiting for you. Right through here, please. I'll take your hat.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, this is my wife, Mr. Kelly.
Oh, pleased to meet your acquaintance.
How do you do, Mrs. Ace?
And this is Miss Hale.
How do you do?
How do you do, Miss Hale?
Mr. Kelly, I suppose you know that O.J. has been handling my business for some time.
Yes, I know. Great guy, O.J.
Yes.
Had a lot of fun with him. she can't stand being hit. No sense of humor. Now take me.
Yeah, take you.
Always like a good laugh. Oh, I had a great laugh driving out here. I live over the bridge, you know. You're going like this, you know. It's a toll bridge. Well, I drove up from that rattle trap of mine, and the attendant said 25 cents. And I said, sold.
That's very funny, Mr. Kelly.
Now, if you don't mind, Mr. Kelly, I'd like to get down to this case. I don't mind telling you, I'm pretty worried.
Well, I don't blame you.
You don't blame me for being worried?
Of course, we can keep you out of the chair.
That's mighty white of you.
And maybe I can get you off for 5 or 10 years.
Oh, will you? I'm not in a very gay mood, myself.
Oh, I'll snap you out of that. Just hang around with me for a while.
Well, how long do you think this case will...
Well, it all depends. Now, let me see. I've got those notes here, I think, or did I leave them in my other suit? Well, what do you think of that? I did. Well, that's what comes from having 2 suits.
I'm only worried about this one suit.
Well, I think I'm conversant with the case.
Oh, you think you are?
Yes, but it doesn't stack up right.
What do you mean?
Well, it's going to be mighty hard to prove in court that Mrs. Ace could have carried on a 2 weeks conversation with Mr. Everett without mentioning Mr. Neff's name. It's a mighty fishy yarn.
But it's the truth. That's why
Well, the truth is always hardest to prove, Mr. Ace. I never bother with it myself unless I have to. No, sir.
You never bother with the truth unless you have to? What kind of talk is that?
Sounds kind of funny, doesn't it? But in this case, I think you'll agree with me that it's best not to stretch too much this strange story of Whitehall.
I don't get that. What do you mean? We have nothing to hide. It's the way it happened. Mrs. Ace was trying to sell Mr. Neff's lot. She didn't know I was trying to sell Everett a lot, too. Mr. Neff promised her $500 if she sold his lot. He gave her $250 advance. She thought she had it sold. She didn't know that Mr. Everett thought that she was talking about my lot. What's there hard to explain about that?
Well, like the fellow said...
I don't care what the fellow said. That's our story.
And you think we can make a judge believe that?
Why not?
Well, he wouldn't believe that a woman could go on talking business with a man for 2 weeks and not mention names. No woman could be that dumb.
Oh, then it depends on whether the judge thinks the woman could be that dumb, does it? Well, I'll take my chances with the truth. Jane.
What?
Give Mr. Kelly a sample.
Beg pardon?
Go ahead. Mr. Kelly, she'll show you what kind of a witness she'll make. They'll believe anything's possible when they'll hear her testify. She's your witness.
Now, what do you mean?
I mean to prove that she'd make a good witness without our having to change the story.
Oh, one of those convenient memories. Well, she can forget facts and dates.
Forget? Why, she never even knew.
Well, let's see. Mrs. Ace?
Yeah?
Where were you on the night of October 12th, 1933?
October 12th. Oh, and that's my birthday. Why, we went to a dance.
What?
And then...
No. Let's take another day. Where were you on the night of November the 16th, 1932?
November 16th. Oh, well, that's our anniversary. We went to the theater.
Oh, no.
Jane, where were you last night?
Last night?
Yeah.
Let me see. What did we do last
There
night?
you are. She can remember 1932, but she can't remember...
Wait, stop it.
Well, I'm not going to let... Mr. Kelly, what do you expect to do if we don't tell what actually happened?
Well, there's nothing like a good, solid story that can't punch full of holes. We'll make one up.
Make one up?
Sure. That's my specialty. We won't leave them a leg to stand on. Of course, we leave the basic facts intact.
Well, that's sweet of you.
Well, you don't expect a judge to believe that the wife of a real estate man would actually help a strange man sell a piece of property when her own husband is trying to sell another piece of property to the same man? Now, honestly, do you?
Well, it happened that way because Mrs. Ace didn't know I was selling old man Everett anything.
You work on a deal as big as that and don't tell your wife about it?
Well, no, I didn't this time.
You expect to stand up in court? Well, you'd be the laughing stock.
Let them laugh. I don't care. That's the way it happened.
You'd lose the case. You know what Mr. Neff's complaint is?
No, I don't know, and I don't...
He charges misrepresentation, deliberate attempt to keep him from selling his property, and attempted defraud.
Attempted defraud?
Yes. He gave your wife $250. He was a check she endorsed to prove it, and he claims all the time she knew you were selling Mr. Everett another piece of property, and she deliberately kept him out of competition to sell his plot of ground. And he must look fair facts in the face. It does sound like that, doesn't it?
It does sound like what? This must be another one of your kidding moods. Oh, I get it, Mr. Kelly.
No, I'm not kidding this time.
Oh, you're not.
Mr. Kelly, I'm just an outsider here, but it seems to me you're making this case sound harder than it really is. It's all a matter of misunderstanding. Why, Mr. Ace can get Mr. Everett to prove that.
Sure, that's right. I never thought I can get Mr. Everett to prove that he thought Jane meant me all the time.
Yes, but he couldn't prove that in court.
What are you talking about? He's a big man, respected and everything. They'll take his word for it.
Yeah, it's going to look pretty sappy for a big businessman telling a story like that in court. I doubt if he'll even testify to that. No. You better let me give this case some thought.
Well, this is a sample of the thought you're going to put on it. You're going to have me wind up behind the bars.
Well, there's not much going on outside in the open anyhow.
That's very funny.
Suppose you go to my office tomorrow. You too, Mrs. Ace.
Beg pardon?
Suppose we have a talk tomorrow. Drop in, say about 10. How's that?
All right.
We'll be there, but this is the story we're going to tell.
Well, I might be able to convince you. Let's sleep on it tonight. Well, guess I'll turn in now. Good night.
Good night, Mr. Kelly.
Good night, Miss Hale.
Good night.
Don't bother. I can find it all right. See you tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
11? Wait a minute. You said 10.
Oh, yes, 10 o'clock. Good night.
Good night, Mr. Kelly.
Well, there you are. That's what I was worrying about.
Well, of all the colossal nerve, did you ever hear such talk?
That's a lawyer.
My sister Joan said the boy's going to study to be a lawyer.
Oh, Jane.
Let's send for him. We can't do worse.
You like that guy. Wants us to make up a whole story.
What does he mean?
He meant he didn't want to take the bother to prove that you and Mr. Everett never mentioned Mr. Neff's name.
Well, we didn't. I told you we
I
didn't.
know, Jane. I believe you, but you didn't think anybody else would.
No, I didn't like him.
You and me both. And that's a man that passed the bar.
Yes, he sounded like he passed 6 or 7 boys on his way over here.
Oh,
Yes, it looks as if the Aces are not only going to have trouble in court with Mr. Neff, but also with their lawyer, Mr. Kelly. We learn more details of the case when next we meet the Easy Aces.
Cinderella lost a shoe, and so she got a maid. With lovely shoes a girl can't lose. In gallon camp she'll race.
More miles to a gallon cap. Yes, gallon caps, the family shoe stores with the yellow fronts. The largest shoe chain in the West, with stores from Canada to Mexico to serve the West. GALLENKAMPS, Gallon Caps present Pat Novak for Hire.
Sure, I'm Pat Novak for hire. That's what the sign out in front of my office says. Pat Novak for hire. Down on the waterfront in San Francisco, you always bite off more than you can chew. It's tough on your windpipe, but you don't go hungry. Down here, a lot of people figure it's better to be a fat guy in a graveyard than a thin guy in a stew. That way you can be sure of a tight fit. Oh, I rent boats and do anything else that makes a sound like money. It works out all right if your mother doesn't mind you coming home for Christmas in a box. I found that out Wednesday night about 9 o'clock. I closed the shop early and I came home to read. Oh, it wasn't a bad book if you ever wanted to start a forest fire. It was one of those historical things, and the girl in it was just getting her second wind and her third man when the door to my apartment opened and the place began to get crowded. From where I sat, the crowd looked good. She sauntered in, moving slowly from side to side like 118 pounds of warm smoke. Her voice was all right, too. It reminded you of a furnace full of marshmallows.
Good evening.
Yeah, thanks for knocking.
I don't think you mind my coming in without warning.
No, I get the cabbage smell from next door the same way.
Does it pay to be that polite, Mr. Novak?
Saves you the trouble of saying please. What's on your mind?
That bottle in front of you. Will you pour me a drink?
No. You'll save dough if you look up a bartender.
All right. I came to use you instead of your whiskey anyway.
Talk.
My name is Lee Underwood. I'll give you $300 to do something for me. It'll only take an hour.
That's too much dough unless it's murder. And if it is murder, it's not enough dough.
Are you afraid?
I just don't like paid murder. I told you. When you get caught, the pain gets expensive.
If it were murder, I'd do it myself. Mr. Novak, I want you to frighten someone for me.
Why don't you hire a friend? Are they too pretty?
It's a man named Dixie Gillian. You'll find him in an office down on Folsom Street, at this address. I promise nothing will happen to you.
That's what they told Billy Kahn.
He'll be in this office until 11 tonight. I want you to go in and see him. Tell him you're from Adrian, and that he's to get out of town by tomorrow noon.
Suppose he wants to put it off.
He won't. Don't let him know who hired you. Just tell him Adrian said to leave.
Yeah. You better go home. For $300, I won't buy a tissue paper plot. Now tell me more or say goodbye.
There's not much more I can tell you, except there won't be any trouble. He's a rotten little beast, and I want him frightened badly.
Why?
He's been bothering my sister.
Why doesn't he bother you?
Because I bother back too fast. Do you want the $300, Mr. Novak?
Yeah, it's going to be a long winter. Put it on the table.
Good. And you'll need this, too.
No, you keep it. I don't want a gun.
It's empty, don't worry. See? No shells. It's perfectly safe.
Now, look, I got a nasty disposition. You can rent that for $300, but if you want more, find a gunsel or an off-duty copper with you.
I don't want you to be a gunsel. That's why I want you to use this gun. I know it's empty. If you use it on Dixie, he'll scare fast. It's just a way to save some breath.
All right, it's your $300.
You better go now.
Yeah. Wait till I get a coat. If your doorbell rings, don't play mouse.
Oh?
Because I may look you up.
Am I too young to ask why?
Because if anything goes wrong, I'll be around looking for you. And from there on, it won't be nice. I'll dirty you up like a locker room towel.
Relax, Patsy. You'll never learn to fall in love that way.
She handed me the gun and walked out of my apartment. Seeing her leave made you feel like Frank Buck losing an argument. She walked with a nice, easy swing of a satisfied leopard, and for a small leopard, she had pretty good spots, too. I put the gun in my overcoat pocket, and I went down to Folsom Street. The address was down near the bridge entrance, and the street was deserted except for a couple of winos near the corner trying to buy back 1926 at $1 a jug. I stopped in front of the place. It was a machinery company. I could see a light burning in the back. I began to walk through the place. It was so quiet you could hear a worm with whooping cough, and there were enough shadows around to keep a ghost happy for years. When I got to the office back in the corner, through the glass, I could see a man sitting at the desk. When I opened the door and walked in, he didn't seem surprised.
Come on in, mister. The bet on noise.
Yeah?
That's right. You make too much for a thief and not enough for a customer. What do you want?
How about 10 words if you're Dixie Gillian?
Go ahead.
You better look up a timetable.
What makes you that tough?
This.
Oh. Well, you look tougher with a gun. Does it make you talk faster?
I'm going to say it slow, mister. Pack up your rompers and get out.
Is that you talking or somebody else?
I'm just the guy with a gun. Adrian does the talking.
And he says get out.
That's right. You got the whole message now.
All right, you told me. So wander out and spend your dough.
I will.
You'll need part of it, though, because I'm going to give you an answer for Adrian. I'm going to take that gun away from you, mister. You can pick the pieces out of your head on the way home.
You better stand back or I'll share it with you.
You got your offer, mister. Let's see you make good. Here.
Save your muscle,
Drop
fella.
that gun, will you?
Save your
Drop
muscle,
that gun.
fella. The gun's empty.
Somebody fooled us, mister.
Sometimes you can get a home run with a half swing. That's the way it was this time. He couldn't have made it with a prayer book in both hands. He slid down to the floor and trembled for a moment and then flattened out like a leaf in a pool of water. Just before he died, he grabbed his side as if he didn't like the way it hurt. And then he didn't care. I rolled him on his back and let him look at the ceiling. His eyes were open and he looked surprised, like a guy who didn't figure on a change in the weather. There was a scar that ran across his forehead and dug deep into his hairline. And he was lying there with a bunch of pink gum showing as if he was trying to pick up a few bucks with a toothpaste ad. I didn't have time to tell him how sorry I was, because if homicide caught me here, I'd have about as much chance as a canary in a basement full of cats. I started for the door. Right then, I knew I could start ordering birdseed. It was Hellman. And he walked over to have a look at the body.
Hello, Novak. The guy looks embarrassed.
Yeah, I guess he is, Hellman.
What's he doing dead?
Putting in a beef somewhere, I guess. He rates it.
He'll like you for that, Novak. How did it happen?
A team play. We worked it out together.
But you've got the gun.
That's right. I got the gun.
You feel like a bet?
No. Just keep stealing the old way.
You know how I feel, Novak?
Yeah, you feel flabby to anybody else, but to yourself, I suppose you feel good. Now, look, I walked in here with a gun. There was some quick fight talk, and I killed him, but it's still not a good rap.
I can get a long price on it for you, Novak.
I'll bet you can, Hellman. You can give me a bad deal, but part of the time it'll be from the other side of the deck.
Worse than that, Novak. It'll be all the time, and I want to watch it because I think you're going to be a crybaby.
I'm going to scream, if that's what you mean, Hellman. I'm going to scream about a gal that sent me in here with an empty gun.
That's a big hole for a cap pistol, Novak.
I got a last-minute curve. It was empty once.
Yeah. That's the only way they make a gun, Novak. I don't want you for an hour ago. I want you for this dead guy on the floor.
All right. I told you I didn't come in here to kill the guy. I don't know him. He may even be a good guy. I'm sorry he's dead.
All right, Novak. Just wait a few weeks and you can tell him personally.
Hellman had me up against the rail and he knew it. When we left there, he was wearing a big, toothy smile. It was big enough to sew in his ears. He called the coroner, and he told him to pick up the stiff, and then we rode downtown. He dropped the gun into ballistics, and he hauled me into his office. The reporters were there. He gave them the whole story and told them how to spell Hellman. After that, we wound up at the desk, and he booked me on suspicion of murder. The next hour and a half was the kind of stuff they don't write about in the paper. They call it interrogation. And when you're finished, you've been through a lot of tight spots, like a piece of bubble gum in a set of false teeth. About 11 o'clock, Hellman brought me into his office, and from there on, it happened kind of fast.
I just talked to the DA. He's going to streamline things for you.
Well, he's going to look funny, going to trial on a guy you can't identify.
I won't press you. I don't have to, Novak. I've got the only parley I need. You, the dead guy, and a big, fat murder gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hellman talking. Yeah, I know it was a .38. That crazy down in ballistics, I saw him standing over the dead guy. Well, they must have made a mistake, that's all. No, I don't want him in here. I don't want him in here. Hey, Tony. Tony,
You're getting pale. You need some more rouge, Hellman.
I got some bad news, Inspector.
Well, keep it, or you'll take more home to your wife. I'll talk to you later.
No, talk to him now, Hellman. If the bullet doesn't match the gun, talk to him now.
That's right, Inspector. A .38 bullet, but it won't match the gun you brought in.
It's got a match. I came in and found him standing there. He admits it.
It's a neat trick, then. If he fired the bullet out of that gun, he retooled it in midair.
I'm not that fast, Hellman. Get out of that chair so you'll have room to squirm.
You keep still, Novak.
Oh, I won't bother you. I'm going home.
Huh?
I'm walking out of your jail, Hellman. You got a broken-down .38 that won't fit anything but your thumbs. You can't hold me on that.
I found you over the bar. I can hold you on suspicion of murder.
But it'll hurt tomorrow morning, Hellman. The papers will be down here for a follow-up. And you'll have to tell them what it looks like out in left field.
I'll handle them.
You can't afford to let them start laughing at you. People will get the idea it's your face.
You can save car fare if you stay right here. Because I'll have you back by noon tomorrow.
You're not that good, Hellman. You couldn't hold a moth with a searchlight. The town ought to thank you.
Huh?
Oh, it's a nice jail, Hellman, and with you around, it'll last for years.
We'll return to Pat Novak in a moment. You're going to put extra warmth and comfort in your Christmas wishes this year. How do I know? Well, because I've seen the Gallencamp Christmas gift slipper collection. You know, everybody's talking about it as the gayest, brightest idea on the gift shopping horizon. When you visit your neighborhood Gallencamp store, well, then you'll know why. There you'll find slippers for every member of the family. Soft and cuddly warm ski capers for Sis, handsome embroidered Chinese slippers for Mom, warm shearling-lined opera slippers for Brother, and good-looking smooth kid opera slippers for Dad's fireside loafing. Yes, and there are appealingly soft and gorgeously colored shearling scuffs to delight the heart of any young lady from 16 to 60, and slippers for the little nippers. All are irresistibly comfortable, good-looking, and irresistibly Gallencamp price. Go to Gallencamp's, the store with the yellow front near you, to buy Christmas gift slippers that'll say Merry Christmas in a heartwarming way. Give more smiles with a Gallencamp slipper gift. And now back to Pat Novak.
When I walked out of headquarters, I had a nice mess to juggle. It was like trying to walk the baby on a floor full of marbles. If things didn't add up for Hellman, they weren't doing any better for me. I knew the gun I had went off. If it did, what happened to the bullet? And where did the other one come from? And why weren't there two shots? Oh, I couldn't put my finger on a thing, and nothing added up. It was like trying to follow a grain of rice in a Shanghai suburb. I looked up Lee Underwood's address, and I went by her apartment. A girl downstairs told me she worked at a nightclub out on the Bayshore Highway. Well, I had a couple of places to hit, so I looked up the only honest guy I know. An ex-doctor and a boozer by the name of Jocko Madigan. A good man until he began to figure the last drink in a bottle is just as easy to get as the first. Well, I found him in a little leather-trimmed sink on Powell Street. It was a grimy little hole where they washed the glasses once a week in stale beer, but Jocko was more at home than a vulture in Calcutta.
Patsy, you're just in time to celebrate my return to health. Something mild for Mr. Novak. A double stinger, perhaps.
No, forget it, Jocko. I got to talk to you.
Patsy, I've just passed through a crisis.
Yeah.
A few minutes ago, they set before me a glass with a woman's lipstick all around the rim.
All right, Jocko.
I took one gulp and looked at the glass, and in this dim light, I thought I was bleeding to death. It took them 10 minutes and 3 mirrors to calm me down.
Jocko, I'm in trouble. You got to help me.
No, but they washed the glass for me in ammonia. They must have left a little ammonia in the glass because the next drink had a very odd tang about it. I've had 3 more just like it, a sort of ammonia colony.
All right.
So far, they've been using domestic ammonia. When the imported stuff comes in, I may give up whiskey altogether.
Calm down, will you, Jocko? I got a bum shake tonight.
Yeah?
I either killed a guy or I thought I did.
Well, that uses up the alternatives. What are you doing now, taking a boat?
I got hired to scare a guy down on Folsom Street. 10 minutes later, the guy was dead.
Oh, Patsy, you take your work too seriously. Couldn't you have just scared him into a lingering illness instead of killing him?
One of the props was an empty gun. Only when the fight came, it grew bullets. Hellman walked in right after on a telephone tip.
Oh, what are you doing out of the electric chair?
Oh, the whole thing backfired down at headquarters. The bullet and the phony gun wouldn't match. Oh, Jocko, it doesn't add up. The call to Hellman's a tip-off. I was framed, but why wasn't I framed all the way?
Well, who is the dead man?
The guy with a falling blood count. His name was supposed to be Dixie Gillian, but there's no identification and no record on him.
Oh, you shouldn't have hired out as a gunsel.
I told you I didn't hire out as a gunsel. It was somebody else's idea.
Oh, you have no conscience, Patsy. Just a sort of soap opera rule of thumb you put into practice now and then, but no real conscience. You'd let a dying woman lie in the middle of the highway, unless her head was resting on a pile of war bonds.
All right, Jocko, I'll cry with you later. I need help now.
What sort of help?
I want you to break into a girl's apartment.
Yes?
Don't worry, she won't be home.
Oh, is that supposed to be an incentive?
Here, it's at this address up on O'Farrell. Her name is Lee Underwood. She's the one who hired me.
Well, if the girl's not there, what am I supposed to find?
Anything that'll connect her with the dead man. He's a big guy with a scar.
Well, that doesn't help much.
You can't miss. Go through the desk and the drawers. Pick up everything you can. Leave a message at my place, huh?
Well, as soon as I finish this drink.
Hurry up, will you, Jocko? Leave the glass alone and get going.
Don't rush me.
Hurry up. The glass is empty anyway.
Yeah, that's what you thought about the gun, but the fellow got an awful jolt out of it. Good night, lover.
I went by a horse parlor on O'Farrell Street and borrowed a car from a guy. It was after midnight when I started down the Bayshore Highway, and about a half hour later I pulled up in front of the Cat's Paw. It was a long, rambling place on the left side of the road. No, there was no plan. It just followed the erosion line until they ran out of material. There was enough neon in front to light a main intersection in heaven. I asked a 50-year-old busboy, and he said Lee Underwood was back in her dressing room getting ready for the 1 o'clock show. When I walked in, she was sitting in front of a mirror, working on an upswept hairdo. If she swept it up any more, it was going to leave her head. I stood behind her, looking at the pink, fresh part of her neck that didn't show when her hair was down.
You seem fascinated, Patsy.
No. I just want to know where to break it.
Oh. Sit down on the footstool here next to me. That's it. I like to look down on people. Here, let me brush that strand of hair back. Or do you like it in your eye?
Brush it back so I can see your answers. Who's Dixie Gillian?
What difference does it make?
None to him and some to me. He's dead.
No, he couldn't be dead.
He'd like to believe that, too. I couldn't sell him that story about an empty gun.
He couldn't have been killed with that gun.
No?
No, I put in a blank, Patsy.
Somebody used a hard-working bullet because Dixie's dead.
There was no reason to kill him. I don't understand.
That makes you even with homicide, but they got a bigger team.
I don't understand it, Patsy.
Who's Dixie Gillian?
He was after some microfilm. I thought I could scare him away.
You better be ready to identify him because homicide stopped. Even the scar didn't help.
What scar?
Scar across his face. There's no record on him.
Oh, no, Patsy. Everything goes wrong. Everything you touch goes wrong. That's the wrong man, Patsy.
Yeah. Well, it's too late for a recount.
You've got to get to that body, Patsy. I don't know how, but some way you've got to get to him.
You look good, Lee. You'll make a nice picture.
Wait a minute, Dixie.
You don't need your coat. Come on.
I don't know how it happened, Dixie. I didn't mean it that way.
If you like it that way, all right. Bring your boyfriend, too.
No, don't let him, Patsy.
Oh, that gun's too big. I'm going with him. It was a short trip. He led us out of the dressing room and down a thin hall to the back door. On the way past the kitchen, you could smell onions and used grease, and that's all you noticed, except the sound of a jukebox somewhere out in front, and someone laughing in a loud, mirthless way. When we got to the door, it was raining outside. We walked about 40 feet, over near some trees, where the dark was working overtime, and the gunsel made her stop. And that's where it happened. He's going to get wet, mister.
You'll have a little trouble yourself.
When I woke up, it was still raining, and I was lying on top of the mud like a stubborn seed. My wallet was gone, and the gunsel had ripped open my pockets. I stood up, and I walked over for a last look at Lee. The rain had washed the makeup off her face, and she looked small and tired as she lay there, like a broken doll that had been tossed out in the rain. I guess she was. I got to the car, and I drove back to town. I checked my place, but there was no word from Jocko, so I went up to Lee's apartment. When I opened the door, the room was dark, but I knew someone was on the floor. Either that or they'd varnished the floor with bourbon. I flipped on the light and bent over Jocko. Wake up, Jocko. Come on. All right, Jocko, wake up.
Oh, a little ammonia. I think, would bring me around.
What happened?
I was sacked, I guess.
Yeah, everybody's got the same act tonight.
Help me up.
All right, come on.
Where have you been?
I went down to meet the girl.
Huh? Where'd you meet her? In the swimming pool?
I've been in the rain all night. She's going to stay longer. What'd you find out?
The fellow with the scar is her husband.
Yeah?
There's a picture in the desk.
Are there any more pictures?
Oh, a few. Take a look.
Where, in here?
Yes.
Well.
Who is he?
Must be Dixie Gillian. He was down to pay off a debt tonight. She called him Dixie once.
There's a note with that name and address in the other drawer.
He's our boy. We better get up there.
Not if he's already killed 2 other people.
We can't wait for Hellman. If he gets away, I'm all through. I won't have a leg to stand on.
That's my point. When the other fellow gets through with us, we won't have much standing to do.
I felt better now. Gillian was the only guy left in the picture, so I dragged Jocko up to his place. It was an apartment on Post Street. The elevator operator took us to the 8th floor and said that Gillian had come in a few minutes before. There was no answer, so we tried the door and it was open. Jocko didn't like the idea.
Oh, Patsy, this is folly. Risking my life is one of the bravest things you do.
Keep still, Jocko. What are we supposed to do? The door was open, wasn't it?
So are a lot of graves, but I've never been tempted.
Hey, look at the furniture. There's been a fight here. I'll look in here. You check in the bedroom.
If I'm not right back, don't expect me at all.
Yeah.
Patsy, come here.
Yeah?
There's somebody on the fire escape.
Stand back here.
He's not moving. He was leaning that way when I first saw him.
I'll get on this side. You raise the window. Go easy, Jocko. Can you see him from there?
Raise it a little more. He's still leaning there. I can reach out.
Now watch yourself. If he's kidding, you'll lose an arm.
I've got him. Raise the window more.
Yeah.
Oh, Patsy, he's falling. Give me a hand.
Oh, here, let me through there.
Oh, it's too late. I can't hold him. He's falling. I'm sorry.
Yeah. He was probably dead anyway.
If he wasn't, that was a step in the right direction.
Oh, it was an easy night to die. 3 of them had checked out already, and there was still time to look for more. Jocko and I went downstairs to see the guy. He was lying face down in the alley, and as you looked at him, you got the funny feeling he belonged there. He didn't disturb the scene. He just fitted in, like a dirty, wet newspaper under a grandstand. There was a gun in his pocket, probably the same one that killed the girl, but there was no way of knowing. Jocko and I watched him for a moment, but your eyes begin to hurt when you see your only warm lead in a deep freeze. Well, it was past 2 when I got down to headquarters, and I looked up Hellman. I briefed him on the girl and the guy in the alley, and then I asked him if any microfilm had turned up on the first guy in the morgue. It was a waste of time. Hellman couldn't find a brass ring in a dead man's nose, but we went over to the morgue for another look. So far, it was working out like a crossword puzzle torn in half.
It's your time, Novak. I got more after tomorrow. You haven't.
The microfilm must be on the guy. 3 people have been killed for it, and I got roughed up just for laughs.
We searched the guy once. Here it is. Help me roll it out.
Yeah. Well. He sure got thin under that sheet, didn't he?
Wait a minute.
Oh, you run a good morgue, Hellman. What'll the papers say when they hear the stiff got up and walked out?
They got him in the wrong place or something. He didn't walk out.
He's gone, Hellman. Have you got an answer?
He's been moved, I tell you. The guy was dead, and I saw him put him here. He couldn't be walking around with a hole in the middle of his back.
Oh, I don't know, Hellman. You can do it with one in your head. Don't sell the guy short.
We'll return to Pat Novak in a moment.
Cinderella lost a shoe and so she got a maid. With lovely shoes a girl can't lose. In Gallon can't you wait?
What girl hasn't dreamed Cinderella dreams of her own and wished for a fairy godmother to make those dreams come true? Here's what the newest Cinderella, Marilyn Buford, Miss America, says.
The modern girl doesn't waste time dreaming. She makes her dreams come true, and she needs no fairy godmother to give her lovely shoes. She doesn't, that is, if she has discovered my favorite shoe store, Gallencamp.
Yes, Marilyn, for gracefully lovely shoes, flattering and in the latest fashions, wise girls go to Gallencamps. Gallencamps are shoe style leaders.
And so amazingly priced, a girl can afford to have all the shoes she needs.
And here's extra good news of a special Thanksgiving shoe sale. Yes, prices are actually going down on many of the up-to-the-minute shoe styles tomorrow at Gallencamps. So shop this sale at the Gallencamp store near you tomorrow to step assured into the exciting holiday activities ahead. Look lovely in Gallencamps.
Cinderella lost a shoe and so she got a maid. With lovely shoes a girl can't lose. In Gallencamp she'll wait.
And now back to Pat Novak.
When Hellman found out the body was gone, he stood there and stared at the empty slab. And then he started looking around in a nervous way, like a man trying to find the sugar bowl at a restaurant counter. A few moments later, he turned and walked out of the morgue, and we were halfway downtown when it happened. It must have hit us at the same time, sharp and quick, like a piece of candy in a bad tooth. That guy back in the alley had come off that slab in the morgue. We got out to Dixie's place, and we began to check. There was a phone operator downstairs, and she said Dixie had put through a call about 2 hours ago. Hellman checked the number, and it was the ticket office of a railroad. We got downtown, and we ran through the timetable. There was a train leaving the Oakland Mole in 40 minutes. Oh, it was an outside chance, but tonight that was the only kind for sale. We got down in time to slide on the last ferry over to the Mole. It was still dark out when the ferry pulled away from the slip and started across the bay. Over toward the Berkeley Hills, it was beginning to get light. The sky was the color of a bruised spot on a man's arm.
We'll get up to the pilot house and tell him not to dock until we've gone through all the passengers.
He doesn't have to be in on this one.
He'll check the train when he gets there.
Wait a minute. You don't have to check. There's your boy.
Where?
Up there. On the rail. Now, you better go easy. He's not a scale model.
Just walk quietly until we're behind him.
Yeah.
Turn around, mister. You'll get a better view.
Oh. Hello, Novak. How was the wind and the rain in your hair?
Meet Inspector Hellman. You better turn in your ticket.
Well, I hope you brought your muscle.
Grab it, Hellman.
That's what I'm trying to do. All right, copper. What's it? I'm being pushed over the rail.
Yeah, I'm worried, Hellman.
What's it, Novak? I'm going over. Novak! That's one down, mister. Now for you.
Yeah. Well, I landed on the deck, and I watched him disappear in the dark. Halfway down, the guy turned in. I followed him down the ladder and along the main deck. He ducked into one of the engine spaces, and I started in to look for him. Oh, it didn't take long, because he turned out to be helpful.
You got the idea yet, Novak?
I'll come closer. Tell me then, huh?
Suit yourself, but I'll knock you down hard when you show.
Hey, watch that platform. You're backing into trouble.
Stay back there, Novak.
Watch out for that platform. You're backing into that engine. Look out.
No!
I kind of wound up
Last, huh?
Yeah. That's the way it looks. Did you get the microfilm?
Yeah. Oh, I got a big hurt. Does it show?
A little.
Yeah. It's been a long night, Novak, huh?
Yeah. But your worries are over. It's almost dawn.
I don't know. I don't know if I can use it, but I'll give it to you.
Well, they fished Hellman out of an oil slick a few minutes later. It was the first time his hair ever looked good. Dixie Gillian lasted long enough to piece the story together for homicide. Lee Underwood was on the level. She knew her husband was carrying microfilm and was worried, so she hired me to scare off Gillian. It might have worked, too, because Adrian was too big for Gillian to argue with. But the first slip came when Lee's husband went by to make a deal with Dixie without telling her. Well, when I jumped him, Dixie was outside and figured it was a double cross. He didn't have time to figure it, but he killed him with a silencer when Lee's phony gun went off. Well, he spent the rest of the time looking for the microfilm. That's why Jocko got sapped and the girl got hers. And by that time, Dixie knew the microfilm was still on the dead man. The only way he could be sure was to get the body out of the morgue. He took it up to his apartment, and when he got the film, he planted the gun and put the body on the fire escape. It was safer that way. There was a 50-50 chance the police would miss it the first time around, and he'd have a fair lead. It almost worked out for him, except for that phone call. The microfilm? Well, it was in a capsule next to the roof of the guy's mouth. Yeah, so old it was new again. Well, Hellman asked only one question. In that fight, did I have anything to do with pushing him against the rail? I told him. Sometimes those ferry boats roll as much as 45 degrees.
Be sure to join us next Sunday evening and every Sunday, same time, same station, for radio's newest show, Pat Novak for Hire. And don't forget, the store with the yellow front is the Gallencamp Shoe Store. Gallencamp shoes are good shoes. There's something about them you'll like. Franklin Evans speaking. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. A 38-year-old woman disappears. She leaves her sister and her 4 children behind. There's evidence of foul play. Your job, find her.
In Fatima, the difference is quality.
Yes, in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Prove it yourself today. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Monday, June 3rd. It was overcast in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from communications, and it was 8:15 a.m. when I got to room 42. Homicide.
Joe, what's doing?
Hi, Brian. You seen Ed?
Went down the hall a minute, said he'd be right back.
Oh, thank you. I don't see anything in the book. Nothing new, huh?
Not much. Pretty slow. How's your mother, Joe? Heard she wasn't feeling too well.
No, she's not, as a matter of fact. Doctor says it's anemia. It's going to take a little time to get over it, I guess.
No, sorry to hear it. I got to do some checking down at the auto desk. If I get any calls, have them switch it down there, will you?
Yeah, I sure will, Brian.
Thanks.
You betcha.
Oh, excuse me, Ed. Pardon me, Tom.
Hi, Ed. What'd they give you?
Missing report, woman. How about the mail?
No, it's nothing. Is that the missing report there?
Yeah, it's all here. Some woman out on 64th Street, name's Rose Baker. It's been gone about a week.
Mm-hmm. Last seen Tuesday, May 27th, 10 p.m. Who's this that made the report? Carl Shelton? Who's he?
It's her boyfriend. Miss Baker's husband died about 5 years ago. He's been running around quite a bit since then. Had a lot of man trouble.
Well, she disappeared before then, huh?
Yeah, half dozen times. Never been gone this long, though. Holmes took this report from Shelton. He gathered Miss Baker's not too stable. She's known to drink quite a bit. Doesn't seem to care anything for her home or kids.
Yeah, I see it here. She has 4 children. They're living with her aunt, Mrs. Baker's sister. It's kind of a funny arrangement, isn't it?
Yeah. Baker woman packed her bags and walked out of the house about a year ago. Her sister's been taking care of the kids ever since. Mother comes back for a visit once in a while.
Mm-hmm. This address we've got on Mrs. Baker, it's the same address as her boyfriend, Carl Shelton.
Yeah, that's right. They both have apartments in the same building.
Is this a recent picture of Miss Baker?
Supposed to be, yeah. It's a nice-looking woman, huh?
Yeah. Sister's listed here as the last person who saw her. Well, how's that? Baker woman still wasn't living at home, was she?
According to the sister, Mrs. Baker came over to the house to see her the night she disappeared, sometime around 8 o'clock. 2 of them had some business to talk over.
Mm-hmm.
Seems the sister had a check for $400 she got from selling some furniture. Claimed the kids had been sick. She had doctor bills to pay.
You mean Mrs. Baker's sister took care of things to that extent?
Apparently. Anyway, after the sister got the check for selling the furniture, Miss Baker wanted half the money. Sister said that's why she came to see her that night. 2 of them got in a car and went out to find somebody to cash the check.
Mm-hmm.
You want a drink of water?
No, thanks, man. Where do you get a $400 check cashed at 8 o'clock at night? Would you know?
Yeah, Sister said Miss Baker knew somebody who'd cash it for him. Turned out the person couldn't cash it. Sister stopped at a bar for a glass of beer. Mrs. Baker took the car and went to look up somebody else she thought could cash it. That was it. Mrs. Baker hadn't been seen since.
Who was this somebody else?
No idea. Sister claims she doesn't know. Mrs. Baker didn't tell her.
Sounds like Mrs. Baker wanted the whole check, wouldn't you say?
That's what the sister figured when Mrs. Baker didn't come back. She finished the glass of beer, left the bar, and started walking home. 2 blocks from the house, she found her car parked. No sign of Mrs. Baker. Car keys were in the glove compartment, so it's the sister's share of the money, $200 in cash.
Well, how about the firm that issued the check? They get it back canceled?
Yeah, a couple of days ago. Mrs. Baker's endorsement on the back.
Yeah, sounds pretty wild, doesn't it?
The whole thing does. Talked to half a dozen people who saw Mrs. Baker that night, and none of their stories jibe.
What do you mean?
Her boyfriend, Carl Shelton, he claims Mrs. Baker told him she was going out of town for a few days with a girlfriend.
They check it out?
Yeah. Girlfriend didn't know anything about it. Then they talked to a woman who works with Mrs. Baker. She says, yeah, the Baker woman was planning a trip.
Mrs. Baker mention anything about it to her sister?
No. Sister says Mrs. Baker told her just the opposite. Said she was getting out of her apartment into a new place. She was going to spend the next couple of days moving. They checked the boyfriend, Shelton. Said if Mrs. Baker was moving, it was news to him.
Well, either she's a liar or one of her friends are, huh?
It's all bollock stuff. No 2 stories anywhere near alike.
What do they figure for a motive? They got a line on anybody who might have wandered out of the way?
Big field to pick from. She fought with Carl Shelton. She fought with his sister, some of the people she worked with. She had 3 or 4 other men around town on the string, too. Any one of them could have wanted her out of the way.
All her relatives been checked out, and all her friends, places she'd be most likely to go?
All checked. Not a trace of her, nothing.
Yeah, I guess we better start moving on it. A lot of ground to cover. See if we can't straighten out some of those stories.
One thing's sure. Somebody's lying.
8:35 a.m. Before we left the city hall, we checked with Sergeant Holmes and Missing Persons, who'd taken the report on Rose Baker's disappearance. He had nothing to add to what was in the report and what he'd already told Ed. First on the interview list was the sister of the missing woman, Bernice Marin. She was employed as a saleswoman for a grocery supply firm. We called at the home where Miss Marin lived with her 4 nieces and nephews, but there was no answer. The next-door neighbor told us that Miss Marin was working, that she usually didn't get home until 4:15 or 4:30 in the afternoon. In the meantime, we figured we might as well check the next name on the list, Mrs. Baker's boyfriend, Carl Shelton. We'd already checked him through R&I, and he had no record. We drove out to his address, a 3-story apartment house on 64th Street. Shelton's apartment was on the main floor rear. He answered the door in his bathrobe and slippers. He told us that he was employed at one of the local oil refineries and that this particular week he was working the graveyard shift, 11 at night until 7 in the morning. He showed us back to a small kitchen at the rear of the apartment. While we questioned him, he fixed a percolator of coffee and put it on the stove.
You're sure about Miss Baker's plans, are you? She never mentioned anything to you about moving out of the apartment house here?
No, never. Somebody's handing you a line there. If Rosie was going to move, she'd tell me about it. Just a minute, I got to get that coffee. It looks about done. You fellas want some Java? Got a whole pot full here.
No, thank you. How long did you say you've known Miss Baker?
Oh, about a year and a half. We got along pretty good. Did right from the start. Sure don't understand her taking off like this.
Miss Baker ever talk to you much about the family? Her sister, 4 children? I mean, did you see them regularly? Seem to get along with them all right to you?
I don't think I'd know that. Rosie never had much to say about them. The only thing I could gather was that she just got sick of the routine, you know. Keeping up a house, doing the wash, mopping, dusting, taking care of 4 kids. She just checked out, that's all. Let her sister Bernice take over.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask me, she never should have had a family to begin with. Rosie isn't the kind. She's a party girl, likes a good time, you know what I mean?
Something I don't understand, Shelton. You said a minute ago you couldn't figure out Miss Baker's going off like this. When you filed a missing report on her, you said she was planning a trip out of town.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, isn't it possible she might have taken off without telling you?
No, I don't think so. She'd have told me. She's planning a trip, all right, but she wasn't going to leave till the next night, Wednesday night. She's going to pick up this girlfriend of hers, Iris, and the two of them were going to take the bus down to Laguna for a couple of days.
Well, it's our understanding this girlfriend, Iris, didn't know anything about the trip. Can you explain that?
I don't know. I guess Rosie forgot to tell her. Can't figure these women sometimes. Maybe she was going to phone her Wednesday morning. She knew Iris could get away almost any time.
And you think it's possible she might have gone down to Laguna by herself?
No, that's not like Rosie. Besides, before I went in to report her missing, I called a couple of places down Laguna where Rosie usually stops at. They hadn't seen her.
Possible she might have gone some other place?
No, without telling me, no. Besides, she wouldn't go alone. I know that.
Sheldon, we understand Mrs. Baker was friendly with 2 or 3 other men around town. You think it's possible she might have gone someplace with one of them? Sheldon?
No, I can't buy that. If it was 8 months ago, I'd say maybe, but not now.
Why not?
Well, we had it out, that's all. It was all settled. She wouldn't do anything like that again.
Pretty sure about that, are you?
Yeah, positive. I don't get it at all. She wouldn't do that to me, taking off, just packing up and leaving. Rosie wouldn't do that to me.
Well, she's got 4 children.
Yeah.
She did it to them. We questioned Carl Shelton for another half hour, but he failed to come up with anything in the way of a definite lead. 10:40 a.m., we drove to the home of the missing woman's girlfriend, an Iris Kirby. 2 things she was pretty definite about. She knew nothing about an out-of-town trip Mrs. Baker was supposed to have planned for the 2 of them. And secondly, she had no use for Carl Shelton. She told us that Shelton was her ex-boyfriend and that she had introduced him to Rose Baker and that shortly after that he dropped her. A few weeks later, Shelton began to keep steady company with Mrs. Baker. Outside of her personal grievance against Shelton, Iris Kirby had nothing to offer in the way of a lead to the whereabouts of her friend. 11:30 a.m., we got in the car and headed for the factory in the south end of town where Rose Baker was employed. We stopped off on the way for lunch, a bowl of soup and a sandwich. Ed had a cheeseburger and a piece of pie. Before we left, we checked the office to see if there were any calls. Nothing. The place where Mrs. Baker worked was on Santa Fe Avenue, a 1-story building covering almost half a block. They manufactured men's work clothes, shirts and overalls. We checked with the personnel office. We asked if Rose Baker had any friends that she worked with. We were told that there was a Mildred Dunn who was a fairly close friend of the Baker woman. Ed and I waited in the office while they sent down to the plant for Mildred Dunn.
Ms. Dunn?
That's right.
Police officers. My name's Jacobs. This is my partner, Sergeant Friday.
How do you do?
How are you? I'd like to ask you a few questions about Rose Baker, Mrs. Dunn. I understand you're a pretty close friend of hers.
Yes, that's right. I've known Rose ever since she came here. She works on the machine next to me. She come home yet?
No, not yet. You remember Miss Baker saying anything to you about taking a trip, Miss Dunn? I mean, just before she disappeared?
Yes, she did. She'd been looking forward to it. That's probably where she is, don't you think, off on her trip?
Well, we don't know, ma'am. Did she mention anything definite about the trip to you, where she was going, when she was leaving?
Well, I think she was going to Laguna Beach. It's hard to tell. She's always kidding around, Rose is. Once she said she was going to fly to Switzerland for a vacation. San Moritz. She's always kidding around like that.
Oh, that's so?
Like once when she had a date with Fred, she said she was going to the pump room in Chicago. You know, just being funny.
I see. Who is this Fred, Mrs. Dunn?
Fella in the shipping department, Fred Lyons. Nice fella.
He and Mrs. Baker see much of each other?
They used to, yes, quite a bit. I don't know if they were serious about each other. I thought they were till the last month or so. Maybe they had a tiff or something. Maybe Rose got tired of him. I don't know.
But you do think the two of them were serious at one time?
Oh, yes. It wasn't more than a month ago. Then all of a sudden they weren't sweet on each other. At least Rose wasn't about him. She told me that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we better check on him, man. Mm-hmm. Is this Fred Lyons working today, do you know, ma'am?
Oh, no. He quit last Tuesday.
1:15 p.m. We finished questioning Mildred Dunn, and we went back to the personnel office to get Fred Lyons' description and last known address. We checked out the address, but Lyons had moved out the previous Tuesday and left no forwarding address. We questioned the landlady, looked over his rooms, checked through the neighborhood, and talked to everybody he knew. We found nothing to indicate that Lyons had anything directly to do with Rose Baker's disappearance. But we did find out that he knew Mrs. Baker and that he thought quite a bit of her. We went back to the office, got out a broadcast and an APB on Lyons.
Want to check the book, Joe, see if we got any late calls there?
Yeah, sure.
I'll get it.
Right.
Homicide, Jacobs. That's right. Mm-hmm. Are they sure? What was that? All right, thank you. Got something.
Yeah?
Hollywood Division. Woman's purse found in a vacant lot out there. High school kid found it. A lot of identification inside.
Yeah.
Rose Baker.
3:15 p.m. The purse was brought downtown to the crime lab for detailed examination. Bryan and Barrett from Homicide went out to interview the boy who found the purse and to check the neighborhood where it was discovered. Meantime, Ed and I drove out to talk to the missing woman's sister, 36 years old, Bernice Marin. She and her sister's 4 children lived in a 5-room stucco house just off Exposition Boulevard. We got there shortly after Miss Marin returned home from her job. Her 2 older nephews were out in front cutting the lawn. She showed us into a neatly kept living room where we interviewed her. She was a plain-looking woman, brown hair, gray eyes. She showed little concern about her sister's disappearance.
I gave up trying to keep track of her a long time ago, Sergeant. I haven't any idea where she's gone. I used to worry about her. I don't anymore.
Well, how about that purse of hers that was found this afternoon, Miss Marin? Wouldn't you say that makes it a little unusual this time?
I don't think so. She loses things all the time. I don't know what she does when she goes off on those things. I don't want to know. Gets drunk and does a lot of fooling around, I suppose. She's lost 2 or 3 purses the same way.
What about last Tuesday, the night she disappeared? You notice if she'd been drinking then?
Yeah, I got the idea she'd had a couple of highballs before she came over. She wasn't drunk, but she wasn't feeling any pain. I'll say, would you excuse me? I want to yell at the kids out there.
Yes, ma'am.
Frank, that's enough of that playing around out there. Let's get started pushing that lawnmower, huh?
Okay, just trying out a new system. Almost half done now.
You better hurry it up. You still got the backyard to do, remember?
Yeah, okay.
The only good thing that came out of that marriage, Sergeant, those kids out there.
Yes, ma'am.
There's 2 more besides Frank and Bobby, the girls, my nieces. One's 9, one's 7.
Mm-hmm.
Marvelous kids. Girls are just as pretty as pictures. I'm glad I have a chance to take care of them. I guess they're just like kids. Can't understand it when people don't appreciate them. I don't have a family of my own.
Oh, I see.
Miss Marin, when you were with your sister last Tuesday night, you say she didn't mention anything at all about taking that trip out of town?
No, just the opposite. Like I told you. Said she was moving out of her apartment into a new place. That's why she needed the money.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's the story about this money your sister came to pick up, Miss Marin? I don't think I quite got that clear.
Well, we have this baby grand piano that my mother gave Rose and me just before she died. Kids have been sick the last couple of months, one thing and another. I needed a little money to catch up on some doctor bills, so I sold the piano. I hated to do it, but the bills had to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rose found out about it somehow, and she wanted half of the money I got for the piano. She wanted the money for herself. Can you imagine that? She wasn't even willing to pay for her own kids' doctor bills. It'd be different if I was charging her to take care of the kids. I just do it because I like them.
Mm-hmm, I see.
Well, anyway, she found out about it, and I had to split the check with her. The whole thing was for $400.
I understand your sister got the check cashed that night. That correct?
Yeah, that's right. It was 8 o'clock at night, but Rose said she knew somebody who'd cash it. She wanted the money that night. To save an argument, we got in the car and went to see this friend of hers, some bartender. He couldn't cash the thing, so Rose took the car and went out to look up another friend she thought would cash it. I didn't want to go chasing all over town with her, so I stayed at this bar and had a beer.
Mm-hmm. And that's the last time you saw your sister, is it?
Yes, I waited a couple of hours, and then I walked home. And 2 blocks from the house, I saw my car pulled up to the curb, right on Exposition Boulevard. Car keys were in the glove compartment. $200 in cash right under them. No sign of Rose, though.
Well, what time was it when you got back to the house? You remember?
It was after 11. Close to 11:30, I think. I went right to bed.
And since that time, you've had no indication where your sister might have gone? No phone calls, no letters, no word from one of her friends who might have seen her?
No, not a thing. She's in trouble. You can understand why. It's been coming for a long time. Last 5 years, going downhill all the time. She's no good, Sergeant. I don't know how it happened. It's no good at all.
Thank you very much, Miss Marin.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, not at all. No trouble. I guess I better get dinner started for the kids.
Well, if you hear anything about your sister, we'd appreciate it if you'd give us a call.
Yes, all right. It's going to be the same old story. Same thing all over again. You can bet on it.
Ma'am?
She'll come back when the money's gone.
5:15 p.m. Ed and I drove back downtown and went directly to the crime lab. The missing woman's purse, which had been found in the vacant lot out in Hollywood, had been examined thoroughly. They'd found nothing that would provide us with a new lead. We checked communications, but there was still no answer to the APB we'd gotten out on Fred Lyons, the man who'd worked with Rose Baker and who dropped from sight the same day she did. 5:30 p.m. We got back to the squad room.
Hi, Brian. You just get back?
Yeah, you get the word?
No, what's that?
Mrs. Baker, they just found her body.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Comparison proves Fatima quality. Prove Fatima quality yourself today.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Friends, to show our confidence in Fatima, we make this money-back guarantee. Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos. If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952, for your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Remember, because of its quality, its extra mildness, its better flavor and aroma, more smokers now insist on Fatima than ever before.
Insist on the best. Fatima, extra mild and soothing, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Smoke Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
June 3rd, Monday, 6 p.m. The body of 38-year-old Rose Baker had been discovered in the Hollywood Hills area. Approximately 3/4 of a mile from the intersection of Mulholland Drive and Oak Knoll Terrace, a dirt road branched off to the left of Mulholland and wound about 300 yards down the hill to a dead-end stop. Just below the guardrail, which circled the edge of the road, there were 2 eucalyptus trees. They overlooked a deep ravine covered with scrub oak and patches of laurel. Halfway down one slope of the ravine, they found the body of the missing woman. There were 2 bullet holes in the left side of the skull. There was another one at the base of the throat. In her clenched right hand, there was a 50-cent piece. The immediate area surrounding the body had been roped off, and Lieutenant Lee Jones and the crime lab crew were making their preliminary investigation. There was no sign of the murder weapon. The coroner arrived, and when the preliminary investigation was completed, the body was taken downtown to the county morgue. All clothing and personal effects were removed from the body and sent to the crime lab for detailed examination. Rose Baker's sister, Bernice Marin, was brought to the county morgue and identified the body. A few minutes after 10 o'clock that night, Ed and I got back to the office. I got it. Homicide, Friday.
Is this Sergeant Friday?
Yes, sir, that's right.
This is Carl Shelton, Sergeant. You were out to talk to me this morning, you remember?
Oh, yeah, Shelton.
I heard about Rosie just a couple of minutes ago. I got to talk to you, Sergeant. There's something I got to tell you.
Was that so? Do you want to tell me now?
Well, I don't want to tell you on the phone. I'll drive in to see you. I'll leave right now.
Well, yeah, all right. Do you mind telling me what it's about?
Yeah, I know who killed Rosie.
11:08 p.m. Carl Shelton arrived at the office. Ed and I took him down the hall to the interrogation room where he gave us his story. He told us, first of all, that he was well acquainted with most of the regular customers at the tavern where Rose Baker and her sister had first stopped to cash the $400 check. He told us one of these people, a Leroy Hansen, had contacted him after he read in the morning paper about Mrs. Baker's murder.
I've known Leroy at least 4 or 5 years. Used to work with him. He wouldn't lie to me.
What did this fellow tell you, Shelton? That's Leroy Hansen.
He said he got to the bar a little after midnight. It had to be at least that, because Leroy doesn't get off work till 11:30. He said he saw Rosie sitting in a car parked a couple doors down from the bar. There was a woman in the car with her. He described her just like Rosie's sister. They were having a beef.
And this friend of yours hear what Mrs. Baker and this woman were talking about?
No, but he's smart enough to know a big argument when he sees one. He says they were really going to it.
Is he sure about the time?
He's got to be. Leroy works at a sheet metal plant south of town. He gets off at 11:30. Takes him more than a half hour to get in. Why should he lie about it? He wasn't even going to mention it till he found out she was dead.
This woman he says Ms. Baker was with, she fits her sister's description that close?
Exactly. And there was a guy with Leroy. He'll back it up. If the sister says she wasn't sitting in that car with Rosie outside that bar after midnight, she's a liar.
Well, she is if you can prove your story.
Here's the phone. You ask Leroy.
11:22 p.m. We put in calls to both of the men who were supposed to have seen Rose Baker and her sister Bernice sitting in a parked car outside the tavern 6 nights before. Both of them corroborated Carl Shelton's story down to the last detail. They were especially certain about the time. Bernice Marin told us that on the night her sister Rose disappeared, she hadn't seen her after 9:15 p.m., and that she had walked home and was in bed by 11:30. Both Leroy Hansen and his friend told us that they had seen Rose Baker and a woman answering her sister's description sitting together in a car parked outside the tavern. They were both certain at the time that it was well past midnight. We made a check on Leroy Hansen and his friend. As far as we were able to find out, there was no logical reason why they should lie about what they'd told us. Ed and I got in the car and drove out to the home of Bernice Marin, just off Exposition Boulevard. It was 20 minutes past midnight. We rang the front doorbell and got her out of bed.
Oh, hello, officers. Didn't know who it was. Come in.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, you have to wait long before I answered. I sleep pretty sound.
Fred will have to ask you to get dressed, Miss Marin. I'd like to talk to you downtown.
Why? What's the matter?
Well, some more questions we have to ask you, ma'am. A few more things we have to clear up about your sister. It's pretty important.
Well, I've told you everything I know. I don't like to go out and leave the kids alone at night. What is it you want to ask me about?
Well, you told us the last time you saw your sister was about 9:15 last Tuesday night, Miss Marin.
Yes, that's right.
We've got a couple of people who claim they saw you with your sister after midnight Tuesday. You were sitting with her in your car parked outside a tavern. You're having an argument with her. At least 2 people saw you, and they'll swear to that.
No, that couldn't be right.
They claim it is.
They say it was after midnight and they saw me with Rose?
Yes, ma'am, that's what they say.
And you believe it? You believe it was me?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
You think I killed Rose, is that it?
Yes, ma'am, we think so. How about it, Miss Marin?
It'll take me a minute to get my clothes on. I want to talk to the oldest boy, my nephew Frank. Would it be all right?
Well, I'll have to go along with you.
All right. This way, down the hall.
All right.
In here. I don't want to wake the other kids if I can help it.
All right.
Frank. Wake up, Frank. Frankie?
What do you want, Aunt Bernice?
I hate to wake you up, Frankie. I'm going to have to go downtown tonight. I'm leaving now. In case I'm not here when you and the kids get up, I want you to take care of everything, all right, honey?
Yeah, okay. What do you have to go downtown for?
Well, it's something about your mother, Frank. Might take a little time. You see, the girls get off to school on time in the morning, won't you? Bobby, too. The sandwiches are all made. They're in the icebox. All you have to do is put them in a paper sack, all right?
Yeah, okay. Why do you have to go now? Can't you wait until tomorrow?
No, I'm afraid not, honey. You take care of everything, huh? Make sure all the doors are locked. And don't forget to feed the dog.
No, I won't forget. What's the matter? Is there anything wrong?
No, of course not. Now, if something happens so I can't get back tomorrow, I'll call you on the phone, all right?
Yeah, okay. You be sure and call, huh?
I'll call you, honey. Go to sleep now. It'll be all right. You get some sleep. Good night, Frankie.
Yeah, okay. Good night.
I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I had to tell Frank what to do. The kids wouldn't understand. I mean, if they woke up and didn't find me here.
Yes, ma'am. What'd you do with the murder gun, Miss Marin?
Out in the garage, I'll show you. I had her 4 kids to raise. It's not easy. You know what it costs to feed them, put clothes on their back? It's not the kids I minded. They're wonderful. I love every one of them. I'm glad to get the chance to raise them. Never married myself. Never had any of my own.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't been easy at all, working all day, coming home and cooking for them, doing the wash, trying to keep the house clean. Rose never gave me a dime to pay a bill, for her own kids, too. She gave us nothing, and she tried to take everything, tried to bleed me for my last dollar. She cashed the check that night and said she was going to keep all the money. I couldn't stand anymore. We argued, and I killed her.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, ma'am. We'll have to go.
Yes, all right. What'll I do, Sergeant? What'll I say?
I advise you to tell the truth. You'll get a fair trial.
I know that. It's not what I mean.
What do you mean?
Inside there, what am I going to say? How'll I explain it?
Ma'am?
The kids. How do you tell 4 kids you killed their mother?
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On October 3rd, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 92, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, I make it a habit to carry 2 packs of Fatimas around with me. One's for my smoking, and the second one's for smokers I see with other king-size cigarettes. All I have to say is, here, compare Fatima. I know they're going to be sold on Fatimas the next time we meet. How about comparing Fatima yourself? You'll find Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters, cools the smoke, all for your protection. You get those extra puffs because Fatima is 21% longer than standard cigarette size. And Fatima gives you an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Prove it today. Buy Fatima.
When their aunt, Bernice Alberta Marin, was apprehended on suspicion of 187 PC, the 4 Baker children were taken into protective custody by juvenile authorities. Bernice Marin was indicted for murder and entered a plea of self-defense. She claimed that at the time of the murder, her sister attacked her with a knife while they argued over the division of the $400 check. Bernice Marin was tried in Superior Court by a jury composed of 9 men and 3 women. She was found not guilty. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Virginia Gregg, Vic Perrin. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Next, it's Counter Spy on NBC.
Tired of the everyday routine? Ever dream of a life of romantic adventure? Want to get away from it all?
We offer you Escape. Escape, designed to free you from the 4 walls of today for a half hour of high adventure. Escape, brought to you by your Richfield gasoline dealer and the Richfield Oil Corporation of New York. Marketers of Richfield gasolines with Xylene, Rich Lube, all-weather motor oil, and other famous petroleum products. Look for the Richfield Eagle on the cream and blue pumps.
Tonight, we escape to India, and the story of a man trapped in his bed by a crate, the most deadly, poisonous snake in the world, as Roald Dahl tells it in his terrifying story, Poison.
Listen, it's an awful good story, but to get the point, you got to understand about 2 things. What kind of a guy Harry Pope was and what kind of a snake the crate is. First, the crate. You spell it K-R-A-I-T. They're in India, the crates are. Little snakes, sometimes not more than 3 or 4 inches long. You have to look real careful if you're going to see one at all. Really almost like a worm. Except that it's the most poisonous snake in the world. It can bite faster than a bumblebee, and when it does, you go up like a firecracker, swell up like a hot water bottle, and in fly the angels. Crate. Tiny little snake. Now about Harry Pope. Funny guy. He had it in for anybody who wasn't American, who didn't speak his language. He called them foreigners. He called them that army word, gook. Didn't matter if they were French, Italian, or Japanese. Gook. Foreigner, he'd say. It's kind of buggy on the subject.
funny guy. Well, Harry and me, we got sent out to Bombay on this construction job, and that's where the trouble started. You see, except for the two of us, the crew was made up of local boys, Hindus and Muslims, 40 of them. Harry was like a cat in a room full of dogs, had his back up every minute. After a month or so, it began to wear him out. Got so his appetite wasn't right. He was smoking 3 and 4 packs a day, and he wasn't getting his sleep. I used to try to straighten him out. Used to tell him he was wrong.
No, Woody, there's no use talking to you.
Listen, Harry, they're all good boys. Why don't you take it easy?
Woody, you and I are good friends, but there are a lot of things you just don't understand.
You ought to take it easy, Harry. They're all human beings, just like you and me.
They're gooks, Woody. Foreigners. Look it. Think about it this way. How'd you like your sister to marry one of them?
I haven't got a sister, and anyway, you've asked me that before.
Yeah, you see? You won't even make the effort to understand.
Well, that's how it was with Harry, and you know about the crate. Now about what happened. It was June of last year. It was hot and sticky, even though the sun was down. I was putting on a clean shirt to go out.
Oh, man, I'm really beat tonight. What's with you, Woody? What's the clean shirt for?
Going out.
What do you got, a date?
No, I thought I'd stop off at Dr. Ganderby's. He promised he'd show me the photos he made down in the leper colony.
Ganderby?
Yeah. These photos are supposed to be pretty interesting stuff. Well, how about it, Harry? Would you like to come along?
Ganderby? He's a Hindu. A gook. Foreigner. I don't want to spend no evening with a gook. Shoot, not old Harry.
So I went off to the doctor's, and Harry went to bed with a detective story. I had a very interesting evening. Later, old Harry was plenty sorry that he stayed home. I didn't leave the doctor's until around midnight, and when I drove back to the sleeping city, it was very quiet and dark. I thought about the pictures of the lepers I'd seen. I remember thinking, I hope Harry's awake, because I'd like to tell him about those pictures. And when I got home, I was glad to see the light in his room was still burning.
Harry, you up?
I didn't get an answer. Probably fell asleep reading.
Harry, you awake, Harry? Woody.
Harry, boy, what's the matter, kid?
Stop, Woody. Take off your shoes.
I couldn't tell what was the matter, but I knew he was serious, whatever it was about, so I did what he wanted. He was in bed, under his netting, with a reading light on, his book on the floor. He lay quite still, and the sheet came halfway up his chest. He was wearing those corny pajamas of his with the big checks all over them. And the pajamas were soaked in the sweat that was rolling off his face. He lay like a corpse, flat on his back, with his hands lying dead on the bed. His hands, even the backs of them, were sweating. His eyes looked like he was watching somebody saw his leg off.
Woody, what's the matter, boy? It's a crate.
Crate? Where?
The man said.
Where? Where's the crate?
In here.
Under the netting?
No. Under the sheet.
Where'd it bite you?
It hasn't. Yet.
Where under the sheet?
Right on my belly.
Holy son.
You can wake it up if you don't cut out that belly.
How'd it get in there?
I don't know. Came up under the netting, I guess. Or it's been in the bed all day.
Is it a big one?
No. It don't have to be big. Looked about 3 or 4 inches. Come along my side. I didn't move. It went under the sheet. One of them folds. One of them wrinkles there over my belly.
How long ago did it come?
Hours. Hours and hours and days and weeks. Woody, I've been waiting a year for you to get home.
You must be sleeping here, huh?
Yeah. I think it is.
All right, now listen, Harry. Maybe it'll wake up and go away. Go home or something, huh?
I can't wait, Woody. I've been lying here scared I'd move something and wake it up.
Yeah, you're scared and it'll bite.
I've been lying here scared to death I'd cough.
All right, don't you worry about a thing, Harry. I know just what to do.
Where you going, Woody? Don't leave me.
The thing was to be ready to cauterize the bite right away. I'd heard about one method. I went out to the kitchen, and I got a whole fistful of those big kitchen matches, and I took them back to the bedroom. Arranged them all with the heads together. Held them like you'd hold a torch.
What are you going to do? What are the matches for?
Now listen, Harry, here's how it goes. These will cauterize, see? So we count 3, flip back the sheet, and you jump out of bed. Now you follow me?
You're out of your
mind. No, listen, Harry. If the crate bites you, I strike the bundle and press it against the spot, and it burns out the poison, see? Well, the matches...
Get away from me. You're a bubble-headed maniac.
No, Harry, I'm only trying to...
Listen, Woody, take your matches and your bright ideas and get the heck out of here. Call the doctor.
The doctor? I never thought of that.
Now get to it.
Okay, Harry. Who do you want, Ganderby or Forsyth?
Forsyth. Things are bad enough without you. Got to bring that gook in here.
I dug through the telephone book and I found Dr. Matson B. Forsyth's number and I dialed it.
This is the residence of the Dr. Matson B. Forsyth, please.
Yeah, let me speak to the doctor. It's very urgent.
Who is calling, please?
Arthur Woods.
Who?
Woods. Arthur Woods.
Spell, please.
Woods. W.
W.
O.
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 You have already said O. I have already written O. Have the kindness to give me the next letter, please.
O. It's O after O.
Please?
Look, my name is Woods.
Spell, please.
W. O. O. D.
W-O-O. Aha!
D-S. Woods.
Wood. W-O-O-D-S. Mr. Wood.
That's right. That's just right now. Let me speak to the doctor, please.
Sorry. Doctor not in. Call tomorrow.
Across the room, Harry lay very still, sweating, trying to keep every muscle relaxed. His face was beginning to twitch a little. I was scared if that twitch should spread. I called the doctor's house again.
Please, I do not understand.
Look, I said if you don't tell me where the doctor is, I'm going to come over there and pull your arms off, and then I'm going to take you by the neck.
The doctor is at the club, please.
What club?
The country club. Ring 673.
Harry lay very still, fighting the twitches, trying to keep from jumping out of his skin, while I waited for the bartender at the club to locate Dr. Forsyth. After about 5 minutes and nothing, I got this.
Are you there?
Listen, Doctor, you got to get over here right away. This is Arthur Woods, and my partner. He's got a snake in the bed with him. Doctor?
Would you mind repeating that, old boy?
I said snake. He's got a snake in the bed with him.
Snake? Oh, Johnny. I say, who is this? This is Captain Smart speaking.
Please, Doctor, you got to get over here right away. It's urgent.
Smart, you can't. You don't fool me enough for an instant, you don't.
Oh, please, Doctor.
Snake in bed.
Listen, is this Dr. Forsyth speaking?
Yeah, of course not. It's Colonel Harcourt.
Oh, well, let me speak to the doctor, please.
Oh, but you can't, old fellow.
Why not?
Why, he's jolly well past that, don't you know?
Passed out.
Like a mackerel. Snake in the...
Listen, Harry, you got to forget all this prejudice stuff. Ganderby's your only chance.
No, he's a gook.
He went to Oxford, Harry.
He's a gook.
It's him or the Undertaker.
He's a gook.
I'm going to call him, Harry.
All right. Go ahead, call it. But he's a gook.
I called him. And when I mentioned crate, he was quiet for a good 10 seconds, and then he said he'd be right over. And he was within 5 minutes. He was wearing felt slippers, and he moved silently into the bedroom. He was carrying his black satchel, and when I saw the lamplight glinting softly in his steel-rimmed spectacles, saw his wise, gentle eyes, his bald brown head, I thought to myself, why, he looks just like Mahatma Gandhi. He looked silently at Harry and smiled encouragingly. Harry looked at him, looked at me, and looked away.
Now, first we must very carefully remove the netting from about the bed. Mr. Pope, I want you to pay no attention to us. You are to concentrate on being very quiet, on letting the little snake sleep. It is a very little snake, and it is very tired. You must tell yourself this, and you must believe it is necessary for it to sleep.
Yeah.
Mr. Wood, help me lift the netting. Very slowly. Up. Good.
What are you going to do for me?
Think about the little snake.
What do you think I'm thinking about? What are you going to do for me?
The snake. It is here?
It's in one of those folds over his abdomen, Doctor.
Now we all know where it is.
Pretend you are the Mother of the little snake, you are keeping it warm. It is sleeping. That is good.
Just Susan, don't wake up and want breakfast.
You joke? That is good.
I wish I was back home in the good old USA.
Now then, what are you going to do, Doctor? I have a serum here. You will inject it into the blood of Mr. Pope. Then, as he puts it, the little snake made breakfast to his heart's content without harm to Mama.
His hands were brown and slender and astonishingly deft. He poked the hypodermic into a capsule of thick yellowish stuff, the serum, and then with infinite care he drew the plunger slowly and steadily upward. The glistening chamber filled. He withdrew the needle, laid the hypodermic down, and then with all the gentleness in the world, he began to fold back Harry's sleeve. It was as though he were folding rare old lace. He inched the sleeve carefully, under and up Harry's arm until the vein came into view.
I'm going to fasten a tourniquet on your arm now. It will be just above the elbow. Do not move your arm. Do not twitch your muscle.
Gently he tightened the rubber tourniquet, and Harry's arm began to flush dark. The vein began to swell blue and tight. Harry kept his eyes on the thing.
Now I'm going to insert the needle in the vein. You must not react. By that I mean you must not tense your abdominal muscles. Believe me, Mr. Pope, this will not hurt.
Very carefully he placed the syringe almost flat against the arm, slid the needle in sideways through the skin and into the blue vein, slid it slowly but so firmly that it went in smooth as a knife going into a cheese.
Doc, you're good, aren't you, Doc?
You must believe that.
You're gonna let me die, are you, Doc?
I'm your friend. You must believe that.
Are you, Doc? You won't let me die?
No, I will not let you die. Now, be still and think about that.
All the care in the world as he had pushed the needle into the vein, now he pressed the plunger down, pressed the serum through the needle and into Harry Pope's body. I watched Harry. His eyes were on the wise, gentle face of Dr. Ganderby. His eyes wanted desperately to believe what Ganderby had told him. Now the hypodermic was empty, and slowly it was withdrawn. And then slowly the deft, graceful little hands loosened the rubber tourniquet. And then Ganderby looked up, met Harry's eyes and smiled. Harry tried to smile back, but the smile jumped and twitched and died.
You're taking care of me, huh, Doc?
Yes, my son. Now you must be still while the serum is pumped through your body. Be very still and be very assured. I'm your friend. The serum will save you. You will escape harm.
He beckoned to me, and I followed him out of the room and out onto the dark porch. The air was heavy and hot. Ganderby stared out at the blackness, drummed his fingers softly on the railing.
Your friend is in grave danger.
Yeah, but the serum. You gave him the serum.
I gave him the serum.
It isn't any good.
It is the finest known to medical science, and it is worthless.
To most of us, science is something strange and mysterious. We think of magic medicines and supersonic planes. But here's a scientific achievement that's as real as your car and as near as your Richfield dealer. It's xylene, one of the highest anammox gasoline components ever discovered by scientific research. And xylene can benefit you today, because every gallon of Richfield gasoline now contains xylene. Xylene to give your car that smooth, knockless power that eats up the miles. Xylene for that swift, eager response you need in traffic. Furthermore, there's a Richfield gasoline to fit your motor. Your Richfield dealer offers 2 great Richfield gasolines, both with xylene. Get Richfield High Octane at regular price for the average motor. Or Richfield Ethyl. Ethyl at its best for top results in highest compression motors. Get Richfield gasoline tomorrow. Stop where you see the Richfield Eagle on the cream and blue pumps. And now we return you to Escape.
So there it was. Harry Pope, the man who had been an enemy of anyone and everyone who didn't come from his country or speak his language, was now halfway through death's door. And his only hope lay in a Dr. Ganderby of another race, another creed, another country, and another color. Now, for the first time in his life, Harry had made a gesture of friendship toward a person of another race. First time. And it seemed to me the last.
No, my friend. The serum is worthless.
What can we do then? The snake is bound to wake sooner or later. Harry will move. He won't be able to help himself, and the snake will strike.
We must think.
Look, I'll shoot it. I can hold the gun low and flat so that even if I hit Harry, it won't be a penetrating wound, and I'll blow the snake sheet and all. Clear the bed, huh?
But you don't even know which of the many folds and creases in that sheet is the harbor of the snake.
Yeah.
You might shoot the air.
Yeah.
You would most certainly wake the snake then.
No, we can't do that.
I think I have a solution, Mr. Wood.
Yeah?
We will anesthetize the snake. Yes. We will use nitrous oxide, or ether, or chloroform. I think the last. Chloroform, yes.
We put the snake out right while he's lying on Harry. Is that the idea?
That is it, Mr. Woods. Now, if you will please drive quickly down to my house, my boy will show you where I keep my supplies. The chloroform is in a bottle with an orange label.
Orange label?
Yes. Bring it back as quickly as you can. I will stay with Mr. Pope and try to keep him assured.
He seems to like you.
We all like the doctor when we are sick.
I drove it as fast as I could. The houseboy at the doctor's thought I was a madman at first, but then he decided in my favor, showed me where the stuff was. I found the bottle with the orange label, smelled it to make sure, and then took off back to the house. I eased the car up the driveway and tiptoed into the bedroom.
You're my friend, Doctor? My pal?
Yes, I am your friend, and I am not going to let any harm come to you.
Well, here's Willie. He's my friend, too, Doc.
Here's the stuff, Doctor.
Willie, I've been an awful dope all my life. You know that, Willie?
It's okay, Harry. You're going to be okay from now on.
The Doc here, my friend here, I didn't like him when he first came into the room. Why? Because he wasn't an American or even an Englishman. What do you know about that, huh? He's my friend.
It's okay, Harry. You're going to be okay now, boy.
I've been a player's dope.
Mr. Woods, you have to help me.
Right. He pulled a prescription pad out of his case, tore the cardboard backing off, and twisted it into a neat little funnel. He laid this on the edge of the bed. And then he took the piece of hollow rubber tubing which had been used as a tourniquet, and he began to slide it into the sheet. It went in where the sheet ended, across Harry's chest, and he slid it down. He slid it slowly, so slowly that although I was watching it, I didn't see it move. Hours seemed to crawl by. The tube inched invisibly on and down, down and down, past the unseen buttons of his jacket, past the unseen cord of his trousers. Then it stopped. Ganderby had set it by a route which did not cross any of the creases in the sheet. He was being very careful not to prod the snake with it. He was sweating, too, now, sweating and biting his lip with his teeth. Funny, I remember now, one was gold. I remember staring at it while he etched that tube.
Now the funnel. I fit it into the end of the tube and we are ready. Mr. Pope, this is going to be very cold. The evaporation of the chloroform will cause a sharp lowering of the temperature. You must be prepared for this. It will take rather a long time, another factor for which you must prepare yourself. The snake is a reptile, and reptiles do not react quickly to the anesthetics which are intended for the use of warm-blooded animals. Bear these things in mind. Are you ready?
Sure. Friend.
He opened the bottle and began to drip the stuff into the funnel. Slowly, very slowly, drop by drop, the clear liquid entered the tube and traveled a long, dark route to Harry Pope's stomach, where the crate lay sleeping. Drop by drop, a pale, swirling vapor hung over the funnel. Down there on the sheet, where the tube ended, a wet gray patch began to spread. The chloroform spreading and evaporating, spreading and evaporating. The room began to reek of it. And I remembered other places and other times. Hospitals, operations, the death of loved ones, smell of chloroform. Harry began to twitch now, his nose. He seemed to be in agony.
Woody.
Harry, what is it?
I think I'm gonna sneeze.
Don't do it, boy. Hang on, Harry. You gotta hang on. Don't. Ganderby looked at Harry's face. He reached up, pressed his knuckle against some nerve on Harry's upper lip, and the agonized look vanished. The relentless dripping of the chloroform continued. Harry was getting cold. I could see goose flesh along his arms, across the top of his chest where the jacket was open. Ganderby looked at this and stopped pouring.
This is enough. I think our little friend should be thoroughly unconscious now. Mr. Pope, you must remain very still. We are going to remove the sheet now.
Anything you say, Doctor.
Mr. Woods, you take the other side. We will have to do this ever so carefully.
We each took a side of the hem. I watched Ganderbein do everything that he did. Harry's arms were still flat on the bed, pointing toward his feet. We inched the sheet under and free of these. It was rough, because we had to do it without disturbing the main area of the sheet. When it was free of his arms, we began to raise it slowly, gathering the material in our hands as we progressed ever so slowly down Harry's chest. We reached the end of his jacket. No sign of a snake. My hands were beginning to shake. Ganderbein paused while I turned my head away for air. The odor of chloroform was stifling. And then we went on, slowly, thread by thread, raising the sheet and easing it away, down past the cord of his pajamas, and down, and still no sign of the snake. I'd stopped looking for it by now. I was concentrating on keeping my arms from shaking. And then, quite suddenly, we were done. Ganderbein dropped the sheet on the floor. Harry lay on his back, not moving, but watching us with wide, terrorized eyes. Ganderbein squinted at both sides of Harry, at his legs.
What is it? It is not as you suppose on the outside of your pajama pants. It must be up one of the legs.
Harry, no!
Stop it!
I don't see it.
Get those tatters of cloth, the remains of his pants.
No, nothing.
The bed. Under the bed?
Yeah. Move your feet, Harry. Harry, move your feet. No, there's nothing.
Mr. Pope, are you quite certain you saw a snake? Sometimes when we are very tired, we find our autosuggestive faculties run a bit out of hand.
Are you calling me a liar?
Well, no. I merely say that the autosuggestive faculties...
Are you telling me I'm a liar?
Harry.
Why, you lousy little quack. Calling me a liar. You stinking little Hindu witch doctor with your fancy pants, Tom.
Harry!
Come in here sticking me full of your cheap, no good medicine.
Harry, go!
Pour that freezing cold up all over
Harry,
me.
take it easy. Harry's your friend.
My friend! That little hunk of foreign trash, my friend! Why, where I come from, where you guys live, khaki like him for busboys.
You make a mistake. You are wrong.
Yeah, for busboys, for waiters, for nothing. You're a foreigner. You're a gook. You're a nothing. Oh, I ought to beat you to a bloody pulp. You and your chloroform. You and your stuff about friendship and Mama Snake. And I must make out like I like you. I ought to split your head wide open, you gook. You gook, you gook, you gook.
Please, Doctor, forgive him. He's been under a great strain. He doesn't mean it.
A great strain, yes. He needs a good holiday. Good night, Mr. Woods.
That's all. I couldn't tell this if old Harry was still alive. Poor old Harry. He didn't die in India. He died in Chicago, in the Loop. Got run over by a taxi cab. The driver was third-generation Irish, a real 100% white American. Maybe that means something, I don't know. Poor old Harry.
Believe it or not, but the very life of your car depends on oil. Without oil, your motor would grind itself to pieces in a matter of minutes. That's why you need an oil that stands up under every driving condition. That's why you need Rich Lube all-weather motor oil. Rich Lube is refined 100% from the finest Pennsylvania crude oil ever discovered. That's your guarantee that Rich Lube won't burn up even under the terrific heat of hard summer driving. Its tough, long-lasting oil film is your faithful watchdog. It protects your motor every mile you drive. You can depend on it. Moreover, Rich Lube motor oil combats carbon and other harmful deposits by its special cleansing action. It cleans as it lubricates your motor. Keep your motor young. Keep your motor clean. See your Richfield gasoline dealer tomorrow. Ask him to change your oil to Rich Lube all-weather motor oil. Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson. And tonight is presented Poison by Roald Dahl and adapted for radio by James Poe. Featured in tonight's cast were Jack Webb as Woody, Bill Conrad as Harry, Jane Novello as Ganderby, and Charlie Long as the houseboy. Special music arranged and played by Ivan Ditmars. Next week.
You are lost in the headhunter territory of New Guinea, fighting your way through the swamps in search of gold. With you is a giant brute of a man and his beautiful wife, who doesn't care which of you is killed or who kills him, and from whose evil treachery there is no escape.
Next week at this time, the Richfield Oil Corporation of New York invites you to escape with an exciting story of evil and violence in the deadly swamps of New Guinea, as Jules Archer tells it in Two Came Back. Goodbye then until the same time next week when once again we offer you Escape. Tom Hanlon speaking over CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned the homicide detail. A man is shot down in the street of a residential neighborhood. He's critically wounded. You don't know who the assailant is. You don't know where he is. Your job, get him.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Prove Fatima quality yourself.
You'll find Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
You'll find Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke. Plus, the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Thursday, January 20th. It was mild in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from dinner, and it was 9:57 p.m. when I got back to the city hall, room 42, homicide detail.
All right, make it in time?
No, they were closed up.
Oh, that's too bad. Where'd you eat?
Well, that cafeteria down the street was terrible.
Nothing at all, huh?
Well, I figured I'd be safe with a corned beef hash. Even that wasn't much. Soggy, you know. Probably standing all day.
That's too bad. I asked Johnny if he'd stay open a couple of minutes late. Told him you were coming right over.
The place was closed tight when I got there. Couldn't raise any money.
Tough luck. Short ribs were really good tonight. Some great pie, too. Boysenberry. Best I had anyway.
Mm-hmm. Say, you got any of those bicarb pills in your locker? I could sure use one.
I'm afraid not. Gave the last one to Gene Bechtel tonight.
Oh.
He ate at the cafeteria, too.
Hiya.
Oh,
hiya. What do you say?
Any phone calls for me yet? Muriel down at the staff's office called. That run you asked for, they got it ready.
It was the only call, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What is it, Al? Something wrong?
No, why?
You've been moping around like you lost your best friend. What's the matter? You mad at the world?
No, just my in-laws. The wife had her father and mother over for lunch today. The old man's getting to be a real pain in the neck.
Don't get along with him, huh?
I keep trying to. Doesn't seem to do much good. All he can think of is money. It's all he can talk about.
Why let it bother you? My in-laws have been talking about it for years. Forget it.
He won't let you. The minute he puts his foot inside the front door, it's the first thing you hear. Crusty old guy. That pipe he smokes enough to knock you over.
Why don't you duck out when they come over? Tell them you got a call. You have to go to work.
The wife's onto that one. She makes me hang around. Keeps telling me her father and mother like me. You never know it. The old guy's a real tyrant. See, the wife comes from a big family. Every time I see her old man, he has to make a point of telling me how smart his other sons-in-law are. How much dough they're making. Yeah, same routine every time. One of his daughters married a carpenter. He's making $20 a day. One of them married a hod carrier. He's making $25 a day.
Always ends up asking me how much I'm making.
Why don't you tell him it's none of his business?
I did today. That's what started the argument. I walked out. Crusty old guy.
Yeah, so I get it. Homicide, Friday. Yes, sir. Where? Mm-hmm. Would you repeat? Yes, sir, I have it. Fine, thank you. Yes, sir, right away. Shooting, Kirkman near Alpine.
Let me grab my coat.
No details?
Man down on the sidewalk, apparently hurt bad. Neighbor said it was a family fight. Come on, we better hustle it out.
Let's go. That's one good thing about this job.
What do you mean?
Trouble. You don't know what it is till you hear about other people's.
Sergeant Al Shambra, Ed and I drove out to the scene of the shooting, code 3, red light and siren. We located the victim lying on the sidewalk approximately 50 feet from the intersection of Kirkman Avenue and Alpine Street. He was a dark-haired man, looked to be in his early 40s, tan complexion, well-built. He'd been shot several times in the chest, once in the shoulder. He appeared to be unconscious. A handful of curious neighbors were standing by. One of them, a short, balding man, identified himself as Ernest Whitley. He said he was the victim's next-door neighbor.
What's the man's name, Mr. Whitley?
Wally Radford lives right next door to me. Been my neighbor for years.
Where do you live?
This apartment court right here. I live in the cottage next to the end when they're number 8. Wally lives in number 9. One right on the end there facing us. See?
Yeah, what do you know about the shooting, Mr. Whitley?
Well, I didn't have anything to do with it. I was watching television with the wife. I heard the shots outside. You can ask the wife. She'll tell you.
You heard the shots outside of Radford's cottage, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Where's the ambulance? Why don't they come?
They've been notified. They're on the way.
Well, who did the shooting, Whitley? Would you know that?
Well, not for sure. We were watching television, like I said, when I heard the shots. Wife and I. First, I heard the shots, and then I heard somebody yell. I thought it was some high school kids in a hot rod or something. You know, horsing around outside. Wife told me to get up and take a look anyway, so I did. On the way to the door, I heard another shot. Then somebody yelled out again like they were hurt. Must have been 6 or 7 shots anyway. Just as I opened the door, I saw Wally go running past. I didn't know what was coming off. He ran right out toward the street here. Weaving back and forth, looked like he'd had a couple of drinks. I didn't know what it was.
You didn't see the actual shooting? You didn't see anyone with a gun?
Well, no. The only one I saw was Wally. He ran right by me, holding his hands up to his chest. I yelled to him, but he didn't stop. I didn't know if he was drunk or what. When he got out here to the sidewalk, I saw him fall down. I went after him. It was terrible. Say, either one of you got a smoke?
Yeah, sure.
Look, I'm still shaking like a leaf.
There you go.
Swell. Thank you.
Want a light?
Yeah, please. Thanks.
You're welcome. Was Radford still conscious when you reached him, you know?
Just about, yeah. I don't know how many times he was shot. He was rolling around on the ground. Pain was terrible. The whole front of his shirt was all stained. I yelled to Mike Desmond, one of the other neighbors. He called you fellas.
Did Radford say anything to you? How it happened?
I kept moaning about the pain. Kind of made me sick. It was a relief when he passed out.
Did he tell you how it happened?
Yeah, his wife. I figured that was it when I saw what was wrong with him.
He told you his wife shot him?
Well, they had a big fight today, Wally and his wife. Started this afternoon, been going on all day, all night, yelling at each other, throwing things around. I never expected this, though. Something must have snapped. She must be out of her mind.
Where's his wife now?
I don't know. Still back in their cottage, I guess. I've been here since the shooting. I didn't see her leave. Joe?
Yeah.
We got our hands full.
Now, what do you got?
Just talking to one of the neighbor women back in the court here. She said a Mrs. Radford phoned her about 5 minutes ago. Identified herself as the victim's wife, cottage number 9.
What did Miss Radford want with the neighbor?
She said she was giving fair warning. She wanted her to pass the word along.
What do you mean?
Claims she's going to kill anybody that comes after her.
10:28 p.m. The ambulance arrived, and the attendants administered first aid to the victim of the shooting, Wallace Radford. Before he was rushed to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital for further treatment, Radford regained consciousness long enough to confirm the fact that it was his wife who shot him. That was about all he could tell us before the sedatives took effect. The 2 officers and 2 of the radio cars which were standing by were detailed to keep the crowd away from the apartment court where the shooting took place, in particular Cottage 9, where the Radfords lived. The blinds were drawn in the house. There were no lights showing. We called the Radford cottage on the phone, but there was no answer. Al Shambra and Ed circled around and back for a closer look at the place. I continued interviewing the Radford's next-door neighbor, Ernest Whitley.
I guess I should have known it would come to this someday, the way they've been fighting lately, Wally and his wife. They've been doing nothing but wrangling, day in, day out.
Well, you any idea where Mrs. Radford got the gun?
She must have used Wally's, I guess. Don't know where else she'd get her hands on one.
He keeps a gun in the house, does he?
Yeah, as long as I've known him, he has. 38 automatic. I don't know the make, though.
Do you happen to know if Mrs. Radford was used to handling a gun?
No, typical woman. I remember Wally and Stella were over for cards one night. Stella, that's Mrs. Radford.
Yeah.
I don't know how it came up, but Wally and Stella started arguing about him keeping a gun in the house. Stella didn't like it a bit, said she was afraid of guns. Didn't even like to have him around. I'm surprised she even knew how to pull a trigger.
You said the Radfords had a big fight today. What was it about? You happen to know?
Same old thing, I guess. Stella was always accusing Wally of running around with other women, running around town drinking. As far as I know, it wasn't true. Matter of fact, it was just the opposite. If anybody was on the town, it was Stella. I happen to know at least one guy she was making eyes at. Oh, here's your friend.
Hi, what's it look like?
Not good. House is pitch dark. Can't hear anyone moving around inside.
Won't be easy to get her out of there, Joe, the way the cottage is situated.
Why, what's the problem?
The rear of the house backs up against that hill there.
Yeah.
Just a small space between the end of the house and the hill. No back door, just windows. One of them's open a few inches.
You mean the front door's the only way in the place, huh?
No, there's a side door on the left of the house there, left-hand side.
Yeah, it's a kitchen door, Sergeant. Leads right into the kitchen. Just like our place. All the cottages are laid out the same.
The living room's just inside the front door, then, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Bedrooms in the right rear, kitchen in the left rear. A small bathroom leading off the bedroom leads to the left.
She won't come out peaceably. How about a tear gas shell? That ought to bring her out.
Well, I don't know if we'll need it, Al. Might be a waste of time. Whitley here was just telling me Mrs. Radford isn't familiar with guns. You think she know how to reload the automatic, Whitley?
No, sir. I'm pretty sure she wouldn't. I don't even know if Wally had another clip of shells around the house. Even if he did, Stella wouldn't know what to do with it.
Well, how about the clip that's already in the gun? Good chance she's got a couple of shells left.
She fired more than half a dozen of them. I know that. She must have gone crazy. There were at least 7 or 8 shots.
Well, they're just about empty, the gun. How about it? You want to try rushing the place?
Let's go. Okay with me.
All right, you better stay out here for the time being, Mr. Whitley. Might be some shooting. You know you taking any chances.
Yes, sir. Sure. Okay, Sergeant. I'll be right back here if you want me.
Thank you very much. All right, let's try it.
How you want to handle it?
Why don't you and Al take the side door? I'll go in the front.
You want to see if we can get a rise out of her first?
Yeah. Might be she'll give it up without a fight. I'll call out to her a couple of times first. If there's no answer, we'll rush the place.
Okay.
Now, let's make it all together, huh? Just wait for a signal. I'll call it out.
All right.
Okay.
That's it. Side door just behind the shrub over there. Give us a little time to get around her, huh?
Yeah, now, when I call out the rush, make it fast. It's the only thing we got in our favor. We'll try and surprise you.
Right. See you later.
Yeah, be careful. Miss Radford? Miss Radford, can you hear me? Police officers, we've got your place surrounded. We want you to come out. Can you hear me, Miss Radford? We want you to come out. Miss Radford? All right, let's go. Hit the door.
Joe, you all right?
Yeah, what about you?
In the kitchen. It's empty.
Okay, just a minute. Living room's empty, not in here.
And in the bedroom. Nothing here. Yeah, how about that? Hey, Joe, back here.
Where are you?
Bedroom, straight back.
All right.
Have a look.
Did you check the bathroom and all the closets?
Everything. She's gone.
10:46 p.m. We double-checked the cottage, all the buildings, and possible hiding places adjoining the Radford house, and then we combed through the immediate neighborhood around the apartment court. There was no trace of the suspect, Stella Radford. In the apartment, we found a picture which neighbors told us was a good likeness of Mrs. Radford. Al Shambra got to a phone, called the office, and a local broadcast and an APB was gotten out on her. We figured she probably slipped out of the house without being noticed during the general excitement immediately after the shooting. Her phone call to one of the neighbors warning that she'd kill anyone who came after her only served as a stall to give her more time for a getaway. 10:55 p.m. Ray Pinker and the crime lab crew arrived and began their preliminary investigation. Judging from the bloodstains found on the furniture and the rug in the living room and on the front steps of the cottage, Radford had first been shot while he was in the living room, and then apparently he ran out the front door to escape the gunfire. A trail of 7 empty shells ejected from a .38 caliber automatic seemed to indicate that his wife followed him out the front door, still firing at him as he tried to get away. We checked the apartment court garage, but the Radford's car was still there. We remained at the apartment court interviewing the neighbors and trying to get a line on some of Mrs. Radford's known friends and associates.
Joe, how'd you make out?
Not much, Al. The neighbor I talked to hardly even knew the Radfords. How about you?
Not much better. The only apartment up the way name's Joanne Taylor. She told me she knew Radford's wife fairly well. Says she has a sister in town. Doesn't have any idea where she lives, though.
How about the boyfriends Mrs. Radford's supposed to be running around with? She know anything about that?
She thinks she was doing a little running around. She doesn't know who the men are, though. Hear anything about Radford's condition?
Yeah, I checked with Georgia Street a couple of minutes ago. It's pretty critical. I don't know if he's going to make it or not.
Joe, Al, back here, hustler.
Come on. What do you got?
Radford's neighbor next door, Whitley's, just got a call from Ms. Radford. She's talking to Mr. Whitley on the phone right now.
Let's go.
I know what this is all about.
Oh, yeah, Sergeant. I was just going to run and get you.
You have Mrs. Radford on the phone?
I did, yeah. She hung up just before you came in. Wouldn't talk, though.
Did she tell you where she is?
No, she sure sounded funny. I think something snapped. She's a little crazy.
Well, what'd she say? Why'd she call you?
Said she wanted to find out if her no-good husband was dead yet. That's all I could make out. The rest was just a lot of gibberish.
She wouldn't give you any idea where she was? Where she was phoning from?
No, I asked her, but she just laughed at me. Might still have a chance to find out, though.
Yeah, how's that?
She's going to call me back.
While Ed and I waited with Mr. Whitley in his apartment, Al Shambra got to another phone in one of the adjoining apartments, called our business office, and gave them the number of the Whitleys' telephone. He asked them to make arrangements as soon as possible to have all incoming calls at the Whitleys traced to their origin. Meantime, Ed and I were briefing Ernest Whitley as to what he should say if and when the suspect, Stella Radford, called him back. There was no phone extension in his apartment, so the only way we'd be able to monitor the conversation would be for Whitley to share the receiver with one of us. We waited. 11:30 p.m., 11:45, midnight, 12:15 a.m.
Sergeant?
All right, try and keep the receiver tilted so we can listen.
Yeah, sure. Hope I got it straight.
Okay.
Hello?
Ernie, this is Stella. Did you find out what I told you to?
Yeah, I called the hospital. Wally's a lot better. It's not as bad as they thought it was.
What do you mean it's not bad? You trying to kid me?
No, it's the truth, Stella. It's not half bad at all. Wally's going to be all right.
Couldn't be. I shot him 4 or 5 times. How could he be all right?
Look, I didn't say he was all right. I said he was going to be all right. Look, it's nothing serious. Not half as bad as they thought.
You're lying. You know you're lying, Ernie.
Now, come on, snap out of it, will you, Stella? It's going to be all right. Wally forgives you. Believe me, he does. Now, look, why don't you come home? We'll get the whole thing straightened out. There won't be any trouble.
Why don't you stop trying to kid me? It's not going to be all right. I've seen the last of you and the last of Wally.
Stella.
I'm with my boyfriend now. We're getting out of town.
Now, wait a minute, Stella. Use your head, huh? Don't go rushing in anything.
You don't have to tell me. I know what I'm doing. I don't care if that dumb husband of mine lives or dies. But just tell him he'd better not try to follow us.
Oh, Stella.
My boyfriend's an ex-con. He's got a gun and he knows how to use it.
Well, Stella, will you listen a minute?
You can tell that to the cops, too, in case they're going to follow us. They try and stop us and they're going to have a fight in their
Look,
heads.
you keep talking. Will you listen for just a minute? Where are you now? Let me come down and talk to you.
Not a chance. Just be a waste of time. I'm leaving with my boyfriend in half an hour. You can tell Wally I hope he does.
Wait a minute, Stella. He gave me a message for you, honey. He left something with me. He wants you to have it.
What?
His wallet. He gave it to me just before he left for the hospital. Got $94 in it. Says he doesn't care what you think of him. He wants you to have the money.
$94?
Yeah.
He didn't have that much money with him. Where'd he get it?
Well, I don't know anything about that, but it's right here in his wallet, just the way he gave it to me. He wants you to have it. That's all I know.
I don't get it. He didn't have that much money.
Well, what do you want me to do? Take it back to him? Tell him you didn't want it? Look, give the guy a break, huh, Stella? It's the only way he's got to show you how he feels about you. Stella? Isn't that right? Well, how about it, Stella?
You got the money with you?
I told you, yeah. Pick it up anytime you want.
No. You bring it down here. I'll pay your cab fare, buy you a drink. You can meet my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Just a minute.
Stella? Hello, Stella?
Yeah? It's about 12:30 now. I'll be down here in half an hour, huh?
Uh-huh.
I'm in a bar right on the corner. You can't miss it.
Where? What corner?
9th and Avalon.
As soon as the suspect, Stella Radford, hung up, we went to the apartment cottage next door where Al Shambra was on the phone in constant communication with our business office. He told us that somehow there'd been a slip-up. They were unable to trace the call to its point of origin. 12:36 a.m. According to plan, Ernest Whitley left his apartment, called a taxi, and headed downtown to keep his appointment with the suspect, Stella Radford. Ed Jacobs and Lieutenant Tony Ruiz from Homicide followed him. Al Shambra and I stood by at the apartment. More waiting. 1 a.m., 1:30, 2 a.m.
Think they'd call us anyway. Wonder what the hitch is.
Well, it's kind of hard to figure, Al. It's either a bum steer or they ran into some kind of trouble, maybe.
And Mrs. Radford, she really warmed up to the idea when the money was mentioned.
Well, apparently, yeah. I was listening in when Whitley gave her the story. She seemed to go for it. It's kind of hard to tell. The way this whole thing shapes up, she can...
Might be them now. Give a look. Joe?
Oh, yeah, Ed. What happened? How'd it go?
We covered the portal closing, cruised the neighborhood, gave her plenty of time.
Yeah.
No luck. She didn't show.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action. Fatima,
America's first, largest-selling blended cigarette. Now king size. The only king-size cigarette that makes you this money-back guarantee.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952, for your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Buy Fatima. Compare them with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Remember, more smokers now insist on Fatima quality than ever before. Buy Fatima. In Fatima, the difference is quality. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Friday, January 21st, 2:28 a.m. With the failure of the suspect, Stella Radford, to keep the date with her next-door neighbor, Ernest Whitley, at the Avalon Boulevard bar, we reached a temporary stalemate. Despite the fact that checks were made at all restaurants, bars, and other business places in the vicinity of 9th and Avalon open that time of night, there was no report or trace of the suspect. While the search continued, we stood by at the Whitley apartment in the hope that Mrs. Radford might call back. A check of our Records and Identification Bureau failed to turn up any record on either the victim or the suspect, his wife. Ed called Georgia Street Receiving Hospital again, but there was no change. Wallace Radford's condition was still critical. At 2:35 a.m., Stella Radford telephoned again. While we listened in, she told Whitley that she'd had no intention of keeping that appointment with him at the Avalon Boulevard bar. She told him that she knew he was working with the police, that she saw officers follow Whitley to the bar where they were supposed to have met. She again warned him of the consequences in the event anybody tried to apprehend her. After she hung up, we checked with the business office, and they told us that the calls had been coming from a telephone prefix which was impossible to trace. 10 minutes later, Whitley got another call from the Radford woman. The conversation went on for the better part of 20 minutes. She didn't seem to make much rhyme or reason. Her only concern was the condition of her husband, whether or not he was dead. She hung up abruptly, but 15 minutes later, she called Whitley again.
Look, Stella, I told you there isn't going to be any trouble. Now, why don't you go and see Wally? He's lying down there in the hospital. He wants to see you. How about it, huh, Stella?
Is he dead or not? That's all I want to know. My boyfriend and I are leaving first thing in the morning. I want to find out before I go.
Why don't you at least give me a chance to talk to you, Stella, huh? We've been good friends. You know I wouldn't do anything to hurt you, you or Wally. Now, let me talk to you, huh?
There's nothing to talk about. If you got anything to say, you can tell me now. All I want to do is find out about Wally.
I told you he's hurt, but he's going to be all right. It's not serious. Stella?
Why don't you stop lying to me?
But I'm not lying, Stella. I wouldn't lie about something like that. What's the matter with you anyway? You been drinking?
What's it your business? You're not kidding me, Ernie. You're trying to help the cops. Don't you think I know that? What kind of a fool you think I am?
But I'm trying to help, Stella, that's all.
Sure, you're trying to help. Not me, though. You're trying to help the cops. I know they're with you. When we made that date to meet at the bar, you told them all about it.
No.
You left the house and they left right after you. I know
Stella,
all about it.
no, you got it wrong, honey. I'm trying to help both of you, you and Wally. I'm trying to help the best way I know how. Now, why don't you come home? I told you we'll straighten the whole thing out. There won't be any trouble.
Don't hand me that. I said we're leaving town, me and my boyfriend. Now, what about that money? $94. She said Wally wanted me to have.
Yeah, that's right. He does. Now, how can I get it to you if you don't trust me?
Get away from the cops, that's all.
Oh, Stella.
Maybe I could use the money, but I'm not giving myself up.
Look, you're wrong about the cops, Stella. Believe me, you are. Now, why won't you let me meet you someplace? Any place you want, just let me talk to you.
How many times do I have to tell you there's nothing to talk about? All I want to know is about Wally. Is he dead yet?
But I told you, he's not dead. He's going to be all right. Look, why can't you believe me? It's not what they thought. Wally will be okay.
Dad? Yeah? In the next room.
But what for, Stella? Why? Now, come on, snap out of it, huh? No, it's the truth, so help me.
Yeah, what's the matter?
Well, it just happened to strike me. You hear that streetcar that just went by a minute ago?
Yeah, I did. Why?
Did you notice a little before that when we were listening on the phone? Sounded like the same thing coming over the line, didn't it?
Yeah, come to think of it, it did. Matter of fact, I heard it a couple of times coming over the phone. It's pretty regular.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Streetcars have been passing by here regularly, too. Not much of a time lapse, either. Not much more than a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean between the time when we hear it over the phone and the time the streetcar actually passes this place.
Yeah.
Well, if we've got the right angle, there's only one way to figure here.
She's phoning from somewhere in the neighborhood, and she's fairly close, wouldn't you say?
Where do we start looking?
Well, car tracks only run two ways. 3:30 a.m. Ed and I went back into the next room and continued to monitor the conversation between Whitley and Mrs. Radford. Whitley seemed to know how to keep the suspect talking, even though the purpose of her conversation seemed to make little or no sense. At 3:42 a.m., while we listened in, on the other end of the line, we again heard the sound of a streetcar approach and pass. Ed checked his watch. Approximately 1 minute, 38 seconds later, we heard a streetcar pass by in front of the apartment court. Before Ed and I left, we jotted down a note for Whitley asking him to keep Mrs. Radford on the line just as long as possible. We got in the car and drove north along the car tracks at about the normal speed of a streetcar. 1 minute and 38 seconds of driving brought us a distance of little more than 8 blocks. It was on the fringe of a park area. There were only 3 residential buildings in the immediate vicinity. There were no lights showing in any of them. We checked the location for public telephones, but we found none. 4:15 a.m., we turned around, drove back to the apartment court, and using the same timing procedure, 1 minute 38 seconds at 25 miles an hour, we drove along the car line in a southerly direction.
Sure not much of a choice. Bars are closed, most of the restaurants. No lights burning on this block.
A few up ahead there in the next block, Ed.
Yeah. Got to come pretty soon, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a minute right now. I can't see how we'd be wrong on it, can you?
Too much right off is just a coincidence.
Minute 15 seconds. Minute 20. Better slow down, huh?
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, there's a service station across the street.
It's closed up.
Well, a lot of them have outside payphones, don't they? You see any?
No. None on this side. Let's see, I'll pull up in there, huh?
Yeah. There's a phone booth in the back there. There's no lights, though.
Looks like somebody in it.
Yeah.
Looks like a woman. Yeah, it is.
Come on. All right, hold it up, lady.
She's running for it, Joe.
All right, come on. Come on, hold it up, lady. Police officer.
Let go. Let go of me. What do you think you're doing?
Police officers, lady. Here's our identification. I'd like to talk to you.
You leave me alone. Just leave me alone. That's all. I don't have to talk to you.
Your name's Stella Radford, isn't it?
No. No, it isn't.
That's your identification?
Who sent you here? Who was it?
Are you Stella Radford?
You couldn't have found out. How'd you know I was here? It was Ernie, wasn't it? Him and his friends. He told you.
No, ma'am.
I don't see how you found me. Somebody had to tell you. You never could have found me. I don't see how I made any mistake.
Yeah, that's right. Let's go, lady.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On April 16th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 88, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, as you know, Fatima Cigarettes makes it possible for us to bring you this Dragnet series. And each week, of course, we set aside a couple of minutes to tell you about Fatima's. We've already told you why we believe Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes. The rest is up to you. I suggest you buy a pack of Fatimas and compare them yourself. Fatimas give you an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality, something no other cigarette has. Look for that bright, sunny yellow pack tomorrow and try Fatima.
The victim of the shooting, Wallace John Radford, recovered from his wounds and refused to press charges against his wife. However, she was tried in Superior Court and found guilty of Section 245 PC, assault with a deadly weapon. She was sentenced to the term prescribed by law. Assault with a deadly weapon is punishable by imprisonment in the state penitentiary for a term not less than 1 nor more than 10 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joseph M. Kinnick, President of the California State Juvenile Officers Association.
Thank you. The California State Juvenile Officers Association has asked me to present this award of merit to Jack Webb and to Dragnet for outstanding service to law enforcement in the authentic and sympathetic portrayal of the police officer in the field of delinquency control.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kenny. And I'll be looking forward to meeting you again and the members of your association at your annual conference banquet tomorrow night here in Los Angeles.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Herb Ellis, Jack Crucian, Helen Cleve. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes. Best of all, king-size cigarettes has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, nature plus the threat of man-made catastrophes make continuing health and constant preparedness necessary. The Red Cross binds these needs. Answer the Red Cross call with a generous contribution.
Next, it's Mr. Keene, Tracer of Lost Persons on NBC.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to juvenile division. You get a call from one of the bus line terminals in your city. A 7-week-old baby has been abandoned in the depot waiting room. There's no sign of the mother, no lead to her whereabouts. Your job? Find her.
Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
Prove Fatima quality yourself.
You'll find Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
You'll find Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, August 14th. It was hot in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of Juvenile Division. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Captain Stein, Commander, Juvenile Division. My name's Friday. We were on the way out from the office, and it was 11:05 a.m. when we got to the corner of 6th and Los Angeles streets. The bus depot. Excuse me, ma'am. You Mrs. Lewis?
Yes, that's right. Are you the police?
Yes, ma'am. This is my partner, Sergeant Jacobs. My name's Friday, Juvenile Division.
Well, how do you do? I'm certainly glad you're here. I've been waiting around this depot for hours. I don't know what to do.
Baby must be getting pretty heavy, ma'am. Like to sit down over here and tell us about it?
All right, thank you. Oh, there, that's all right, honey. You sleep now. Sleepy, bye. Poor little thing's just a shame.
Yes, ma'am. The report we got didn't go into detail. Some woman left the baby with you, is that right?
Yes, as soon as we got off the bus this morning. She said she'd only be gone a few minutes. It's been hours. I don't know what to do.
Well, did you know the woman, Mrs. Lewis?
Her name's Dorothy Miller. She's from Arizona, Tucson. We got off the bus, and she asked me if I'd hold her baby while she went to get her luggage. She said she'd meet me right there by the information desk. I've been waiting ever since. She hasn't come back. I don't know what to think of it.
Well, how well do you know this Dorothy Miller, ma'am?
Well, not too well, but she seemed like such a nice girl. Friendly and very sociable. We sat together all the way in.
You got on the bus with her, too, Son's at it?
Oh, no. I'm from Cincinnati. I got on the bus there and then went down to Dallas. Had a visit with an aunt of mine down there.
I see.
I got another bus at Dallas to come out here. Went along the southern route. Very nice. Same bus I came in on this morning. I'm out here to meet my husband, Army man. He's coming in on a transport from overseas. Coming in tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Now, you say this Dorothy Miller boarded the bus at Tucson with the baby. She rode all the way into Los Angeles with you.
Yes, right into this depot. She sat in the seat next to mine. We struck up a conversation. Got to be quite good friends. He's such a cute baby. I just can't imagine.
Well, how'd the Miller woman seem to you, Miss Lewis? All right? I mean, was there anything odd about her behavior? Anything unusual?
No, nothing at all. Seemed to me to be a perfect mother. Took good care of the baby. Wonderful care. That's what's so upsetting. For her to go off like this. Leave her baby with a stranger. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, now, you say you talked to this Dorothy Miller quite a bit along the way, ma'am.
I beg your pardon? What was that?
Maybe if we move out the car, Joe, it'd be a lot easier to talk out there.
That's a good idea. Ms. Lewis, would you mind coming along with us to our cars parked just down the street? Should be a little quieter there, huh?
Yes, all right. I have these two valises.
All right, I'll get them, ma'am.
Oh, thank you.
Be out this way, please. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Pardon me.
Sorry?
Pardon us, please. Help you with one of those, Ann?
No, that's okay.
Just down the street here, ma'am.
Oh, my. Isn't it a beautiful day? What a shame. All this trouble.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you make it all right, Miss Lewis?
Oh, yes, I think so.
I'll slip the valises in back. There's plenty of room there.
Yeah, okay.
Give me a hand. Okay. Now, about this Miller woman, Miss Lewis, I was going to ask you.
Yes?
Well, did she happen to tell you where she lived in Tucson, if she had any people there, any family?
No, I don't recall anything like that. She talked about some of the girlfriends she had there, their babies. She didn't mention any of them by name, though.
How about her description, Mrs. Lewis? Anything unusual there?
No, I wouldn't say so. Small girl, 5'3" or 4", I'd say. 110 or 15 pounds, dark hair, shoulder length, dark eyes, nice complexion, very pretty eyes.
About how old would you say?
20, that's what she told me anyway. She said she had a birthday in May. I remember we talked about that. She was born under the same sign I was, Taurus the Bull.
Mm-hmm. And all the talk you had with this Miller girl, she never gave you any reason to think that anything was wrong with her? Didn't seem to be despondent, depressed about anything?
Perfectly normal girl, as far as I could tell. I just can't get over it. I can't imagine her doing anything like this.
Well, how'd she seem this morning when you got in on the bus? Pretty much the same?
Yes, I think so. We got off the bus together. She had her hands full with the baby, so I helped her off with the hand valise she was carrying. Mm-hmm. When we got inside the waiting room, she mentioned that she had to go pick up some luggage from the check stand. She asked me if I'd mind very much holding her baby while she went after him. I said, no, not at all. She went around the corner of the baggage stand, and that's the last I saw of her.
You checked around the depot, did you? And you had her paid?
I talked to everyone in the place. The porters, ticket clerks, information desk, traveler's aid. Not one of them could help. I tried everybody. Oh, dear. It's all right now. We'll find your mother. Yes. You try and sleep. Just a moment. Wonderful. He's adorable. It's a little boy. She said his name's Stephen.
Yes, ma'am. Well, you say you've been waiting around the depot 3 hours. Has the baby been fed?
Yes, this hand valise the Miller girl gave me to hold. I found a bottle full of formula in it. The man at the coffee shop warmed it for me. The little fella here finished it off. The way he eats, I guess he'll be wanting some more pretty soon.
I guess we better get back in, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
Can't imagine it. I just can't imagine it.
Ma'am?
This little boy, just look at him.
Yes, ma'am.
Her own baby. So small and helpless. How could she go off and leave him?
Well, I guess she had a reason. Must have been important.
A 7-week-old baby? What's more important than that?
Before we left the bus depot, Ed contacted the clerk at the depot information desk and left our card with him. If anyone came in to make inquiries about the abandoned child, he was to advise them to get in touch with us. 11:48 a.m. The woman who'd been left with the baby, Mrs. Marjorie Lewis, agreed to return to the office with us and give us a complete report on everything she knew about the case. As soon as we got back, we briefed Captain Stein on what happened, and he assigned policewoman Betty Stone to come in and help out with the baby. A cursory examination seemed to indicate there was nothing abnormal about the baby, no apparent deformities. We checked the blanket and the baby's clothing, but we found no identifying marks of any use to us. Policewoman Stone made the baby comfortable for the time being, and then she began to check through the contents of the small valise which the baby's mother had left with Mrs. Lewis. It contained the usual assortment: baby oil, powder, dextrose, a few cans of milk, a couple of blankets, and a supply of diapers. Ed and I continued to interview Mrs. Lewis.
This the Miller woman's first baby, do you know, or did she happen to mention it?
Yes, it's her first. That's what she told me, anyway.
Did you talk about the baby's health at all? Was there any trouble there, would you know?
Well, she did say she had some trouble with the formula at first. It didn't seem to suit the baby. Wasn't anything serious, though. As a matter of fact, that does worry me a little bit, Sergeant.
What's that?
The baby's formula. Mrs. Miller did say it had to be fixed a special way. Some special medicine she put in it, too. Are you sure the baby's going to get good care?
Yes, ma'am. There's no need to worry. He'll be moved to General Hospital. They'll look after him.
But the special formula, the medicine she was giving him, will they know about that? Will they know how to feed him?
Well, they've handled cases like this before, Ms. Lewis. They're pretty competent people. They'll know what to do.
Well, I surely hope so. I don't know why I'm so concerned. I guess it's just the little fellow's so small, all alone, so helpless. Terrible shame.
Yes, ma'am. About this special formula the baby has to have, what's the reason for that? Would you know? The baby been sick recently?
No, I don't think so. Mrs. Miller did say he was a little sickly when he was born, spent a little time in an incubator. I don't believe it was critical, though. At least I didn't gather that.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Lewis. Appreciate your cooperation, everything you've done on this.
Not at all, Sergeant. I only wish I could be more help.
You mind telling us where you'll be stopping in town, ma'am? Possible we might have to contact you again.
Well, I don't have any reservations. I was thinking of staying at a hotel close to downtown.
There's a big convention in town. Most of the places are pretty crowded. We'd be glad to help you find a hotel space if you like.
Oh, well, that's certainly very nice of you.
Not at all.
Sergeant Friday, could I see you a minute, please?
Yes, all right. Would you excuse me, please?
Surely.
Yeah, Betty.
For a policewoman, I'm not bad at checking diapers.
How do you mean?
Over here. The valise the mother left with Mrs. Lewis.
Mm-hmm. Did you come up with anything?
Didn't think so at first. Went over the valise, everything inside, nothing. And I started putting the things back in the bag. Found this in that stack of diapers there.
Mm-hmm.
Paid receipt for a hospital bill. Maternity ward.
Santa Maria Hospital, Tucson.
There's the patient's name right there at the top.
Mm-hmm. Dorothy Miller. 12:30 p.m. A local broadcast and an APB was gotten out on Dorothy Miller. And then we sent a communication to the Tucson Police Department laying out the story for them and asking them to check with the Santa Maria Hospital there for a possible lead on the missing mother. Meantime, the baby was removed to General Hospital. We found accommodations for Mrs. Lewis at a downtown hotel. We dropped her off there, and then we drove back to the bus depot on 6th Street. We tried to locate the driver of the bus on which the Miller woman and her baby had arrived that morning. We were told he was off duty and that he wouldn't report back until 8 o'clock the following morning. We left our card along with a message for the driver, asking him to contact us as soon as he returned. For the rest of the afternoon, Ed and I, along with the 2 other men from Juvenile Division, checked with all the bus depot personnel, but we were unable to turn up any kind of a lead. After that, we started making the rounds of the hotels, bars, restaurants, and taxicab stands in the neighborhood. The same results, nothing. 7:55 a.m. the following morning, I reported back in for work.
Morning, Joe.
Hi, Betty. Ed check in yet?
Went out for a minute, so he'll be right back.
What do you know? Anything new?
Communication for you from the Tucson PD. Kick back on that query you got off to him yesterday. Think Ed left it in your box.
Oh, thanks, Betty. I'll get it. Mm-hmm. Did you see this?
Ed showed it to me, yeah. Confirms the fact the woman had her baby in that hospital. Still not much help, though.
Yeah, I see. They checked out her last known address in Tucson. She moved. No forwarding address. No line in her relatives or friends.
The day the baby was born seems to check out.
Mm-hmm. June 24th. Makes the baby just about 7 weeks old, doesn't it? This part here doesn't make much sense, though, does it?
The Miller girl's description?
Yeah. Ms. Lewis said Dorothy Miller was small and dark, long dark hair, dark eyes. People at the hospital describe her as being blonde, fairly tall, blue eyes, long blonde hair, about 29, 30 years old.
Mrs. Lewis said the Miller girl just turned 20, didn't she?
Yeah, that's what she said. Sure doesn't figure.
A little too much to write off as coincidence. 2 Dorothy Millers having babies. Same day, same hospital.
No, I just happened to think. This description of the Miller girl.
Uh-huh.
Fairly tall, long blonde hair. Ms. Lewis has long blonde hair, hasn't she?
Benny? Oh, hi, Joe.
Hi, what's doing?
That bus driver we wanted to talk to, the one who drove the bus Dorothy Miller and the baby came in on yesterday?
Yeah.
That description Ms. Lewis gave us of Dorothy Miller?
Mm-hmm.
Driver doesn't remember anyone like that on his bus. He remembered Ms. Lewis, though. She didn't get on the bus at Dallas. She didn't sit next to a young girl with a baby either. Driver says he's sure of it.
Oh, and what's the pitch?
Ms. Lewis got on the bus at Tucson. She had a baby in her arms.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Fatima, America's first, largest-selling blended cigarette. Now king size. The only king size cigarette that makes you this money-back guarantee.
Buy a pack of Fatimas Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas by August 1st, 1952, for your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Buy Fatima. Compare them with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Remember, more smokers now insist on Fatima quality than ever before. Buy Fatima. In Fatima, the difference is quality. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
8:35 a.m. Ed Jacobs and I went into the adjoining room where we continued to interview the bus driver, the same man who'd been driving the bus on which Mrs. Lewis and the abandoned baby and his mother supposedly had arrived in Los Angeles the day before. The more we talked to the driver, the more he convinced us that the story we'd gotten from Mrs. Marjorie Lewis was a long way from the truth. He repeated that he was absolutely sure that Mrs. Lewis did not get on the bus at Dallas, that she boarded the bus at Tucson, and that at the time she got on, she was holding a baby in her arms. He was just as positive that Mrs. Lewis held the baby in her arms all the way to Los Angeles, and that she did not sit next to a young, dark-haired girl, but an elderly woman. He also told us that none of his passengers on that particular trip fitted the description of Dorothy Miller as given us by Mrs. Lewis. 8:50 a.m. Before the bus driver left, we got his address and a phone number where we could get in touch with him if necessary. 9:05 a.m. Ed and I got in the car, drove to the downtown hotel where Mrs. Lewis was staying, and called her room from the phone in the lobby. She told us that her husband, Army Captain Walter Lewis, had arrived in from overseas earlier that morning and checked in at the hotel. I asked her if her husband was with her, but she said no. He was downstairs at the hotel barber shop. Ed and I got in the elevator and went up to see her. Outside and down in the street, you could hear the sounds of a parade passing by. It was American Legion Convention Week, the traditional parade. Some parade, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh, good morning, officers. Come in, please.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
What happened? Did you find out anything?
Well, a few things, ma'am. We've been checking around. 2 or 3 more questions we'd like to ask you, if you don't mind.
Well, no, not at all. How's the baby? Are they taking care of him? Is he all right?
Yes, ma'am. He's fine. We checked at the hospital. He's doing real well.
Oh, I'm glad. And the Miller girl, Dorothy Miller, did you find out anything?
We haven't been able to locate her. No trace for her at all. That's why we're here, Miss Lewis. A few things we'd like to have you straighten out for us.
Well, I'll do anything I can to help. I think I already told you everything I could remember about the girl.
Well, now, we're going to be honest with you, Miss Lewis. We don't think you're telling the truth.
What? Well, I don't understand.
We talked to the man who was driving the bus you came in on yesterday, the same bus you say Dorothy Miller and her baby were on.
Yes, that's right.
Well, the bus driver couldn't remember the Miller girl. Told us none of his passengers even came close to her description.
Well, there was quite a few people on the bus. I guess you can't blame him for not remembering her.
He remembered you, Miss Lewis. You were sitting near the front of the bus. He doesn't remember anyone with a baby sitting next to you, though.
I guess he made a mistake. He can't remember everything.
Well, he said you were holding the baby.
I don't understand this. What is it you're trying to find out?
Well, when we talked to you yesterday, you told us that you got on the bus at Dallas. Isn't that right?
Yes. What would that have to do with it?
Well, the bus driver says you got on at Tucson. You seem to remember it pretty well. He says when you got on the bus, you were holding a baby in your arms.
Well, that's silly. He's wrong. He must have me confused with somebody else.
I don't see how, ma'am. He says you were the only woman on the bus with a baby.
What's the point of this, Sergeant? I don't understand any of this.
Well, frankly, neither do we. I don't know why you're lying to us about this, but apparently you are.
You're wrong. I'm not lying. It happened just the way I told you. The girl gave me the baby to hold, and then she disappeared. There's no reason for me to lie about that.
We found a receipt for a hospital bill in that valise with the baby's things in it. The receipt was made out to Dorothy Miller.
Well, that proves it, doesn't it? She was on the bus with me, and her baby was with her.
The check was made with the hospital at Tucson. They remembered the name Dorothy Miller. She gave birth to a baby boy about 7 weeks ago. She wasn't the same girl you described to us, though. Description wasn't even close.
Well, then it must be a mistake. I guess somebody made a mistake. I can't understand any of this.
Well, they sent us back a description of the Dorothy Miller who stayed at the hospital. It was a fairly tall woman, long blonde hair, about 29 or 30.
Yes?
Description fits you, Miss Lewis. Fits almost perfectly.
Well, it's wrong. It has to be wrong. The whole thing's a mistake.
I beg your pardon?
I say the whole thing is a mistake. It has to be wrong.
No, I don't think so, ma'am.
Why don't you tell me? What do you think? Tell me, please.
There is no Dorothy Miller. There never was. There's no such person, ma'am.
That's what you really think? I invented it? I made it all up?
Did you?
And the baby? What about him? There's no Dorothy Miller. What about the baby?
I don't know. Do you want to tell us? Ms. Lewis?
Yes. Yes.
Miss Lewis, can I get something for you?
Thank you. I'm all right. I suppose I knew it would happen sometime. I tried not to think about it.
Yeah?
When you called from downstairs, I knew you'd found out. That's why you asked. My husband was with me, isn't it? He didn't want to embarrass me.
We wanted to give you a chance to tell your side of the story. Thought maybe you wanted to keep it from your husband.
No, it doesn't matter. I'll tell him. He'll be back in a few minutes. He can do anything he wants. I won't blame him. He'll pack his bags and walk out and leave, and I won't blame him.
All right, you want to tell us about it?
Well, I think you know. My baby. My own baby, and I couldn't keep him. There wasn't anything else to do. Nothing. My own baby.
You made up the whole story about the girl, Dorothy Miller, her leaving the baby with you? Ms. Lewis?
Such a beautiful day, isn't it? Big crowd for the parade. They lined all the way up the street.
You must have had a reason for it, Ms. Lewis, giving your baby away. Now, do you want to tell us about it?
Yes, all right. Won't make any difference. It's done. It's all done. It's my husband I'm thinking about, Walter. I'm going to have to hurt him, and I don't want to hurt him. I don't know how I'm going to tell him.
Tell him what, ma'am?
I tried to make him understand. All the time before he left for overseas. It was almost 2 years ago. I tried to make him understand. He wouldn't listen. He didn't believe me. He thought I was fooling.
Yes, ma'am.
I love him, Sergeant. I tried to explain. I didn't want to be alone, having him away all the time. I knew there was going to be trouble. I knew it. I didn't want to be alone. He didn't understand. He only said I was fooling.
Yes, ma'am.
He left for overseas in October, Walter. Almost 2 years ago. I went down to Wilmington. I saw him leave on the boat. I stood there and watched him go. I wasn't going to see him. 24 months. I wouldn't see him. No children, no family. Just a 2-room apartment. If he only believed me. If he only would have taken me with him.
Where were you living at that time, ma'am?
Up the coast, just this side of Santa Barbara. I told Walter. I couldn't be alone. I needed something. If he only had children, if he'd only taken me with him. It didn't have to be this way. He could have taken me with him. He could have arranged it. He wouldn't. He left me here alone. I tried to tell him. He left me here alone.
Yes, ma'am.
I took it for a year. A whole year. 2-room apartment, being alone. I wrote to Walter twice a week. He wrote to me. It didn't do any good. He didn't want me with him. A whole year. And it got too much.
You mean you could have joined him overseas?
I don't know why. Kept writing to him. He kept putting me off a whole year. It got too much. 2-room apartment, alone. You can't spend your life that way. I started going out, having dates. I had to get out. Started going to parties, different people. Guess I drank too much. Didn't want to be alone. Guess I always drank too much.
Mm-hmm.
There's one party. Don't even remember who I went with. Guess it was drinking. I don't know. When I left, I don't even remember who I was with. It didn't have to be this way. It didn't have to happen like this.
Are you all right, Ms. Lewis? Or something we can get you?
No, I'm all right. I didn't know what to do when I found out. I saw the doctor. He didn't understand either. I mean, the way I felt. He said the baby would be born in June. I cried. He didn't understand.
Yes, ma'am.
When the time came, I went to Tucson, Arizona. Had my baby. At least I wasn't alone. Used a different name at the hospital. Dorothy Miller. Maybe it wasn't Walter's baby, but it was mine. It was mine. I thought at first it wouldn't make much difference, but it did, though. It did.
Yeah?
I knew what it'd mean. I loved Walter. I still love him. But if he found out, I knew what it would mean. I couldn't even think about it. I love Walter. I couldn't even think about telling him.
So you figured on giving up the baby, huh? Giving him away, is that the idea?
I can't tell you how many times I worked it out in my mind, day after day. I almost went crazy with it. Walter, the baby, which one? I finally decided Walter. Don't you think it's fair? Don't you?
Well, I wouldn't know, ma'am. It's your decision. It's up to you.
I don't know how to tell him. Won't you help me, please? Help me tell Walter.
All right. You like?
It's such a terrible thing. I mean, to make a choice when you have to hurt somebody. To have to choose between the two of them. One of them has to be hurt.
Ma'am?
My husband and my baby. Which one?
10:38 a.m. At Mrs. Lewis' request, Ed and I stayed on at the hotel room until her husband, Army Captain Walter Lewis, returned. He was a tall, dark-haired man in his late 30s, dark eyes, tan complexion. Mrs. Lewis was waiting in the adjoining room. It wasn't easy, but as best we could, Ed and I briefed the husband on what had happened. His first reaction was fairly normal. He took it pretty hard. We kept on talking to him. After a while, he calmed down. We laid out the whole story for him again.
She turned the baby over to the police, is that it? She gave the baby up?
Yes, sir. She figured it was the only thing she could do.
Kind of hard to believe, isn't it? What's the answer? What am I supposed to do?
Well, sir, I know it's none of our business, Captain. I think you might try looking at it from your wife's point of view, maybe.
What do you mean?
Well, it's pretty obvious. She's still in love with you. I think she's shown you that.
Yeah?
Well, she was in a jam. It was a big choice for her to make. She knew she was wrong. She made a mistake. She was ready to pay for it. It was either you or the baby. She knew that. She decided to give up the baby.
Baby's all right now? Somebody's taking care of him?
Yes, sir. Baby boy.
Where's Marge now, my wife?
In the next room.
I want to see her.
Well, maybe you should wait just a little
No,
longer.
it's all right. Just want to tell her something.
Aren't you?
Marge?
What can I say, Walter? Sorry. Sorry, there isn't anything else I can say.
You don't have to say anything, Marge.
You can do what you want. I won't blame you. You've got a right to do anything you want. I just want to tell you, Walter, I love you. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sit down, Marge. Come on, sit down.
I won't blame you, Walter. Anything you do, I won't blame you.
It's going to be all right, honey. Nothing to cry about. Everything will be all right. Try and take it easy, dear. You got a little mistake here. I guess I made my share of it. It'll all work out. Officer?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask you a favor. You got a car downstairs?
Yes, sir, we do.
Wonder if you'd mind dropping us by the hospital. I'd like to see my son.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On Thursday, August 15th, a meeting was held in the District Attorney's Office, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that meeting.
And now here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, you've just heard the 130th consecutive Dragnet broadcast for Fatima. Now, the only reason we're able to bring you these programs is because so many of you have switched to Fatima. If you haven't tried Fatimas yet, I wish you'd do this. Buy a pack and compare them with the king-size cigarette you've been smoking. You'll find Fatima gives you an extra mild and soothing smoke. You'll like Fatima's better flavor and aroma. What's more, I kind of think you'll agree with me. Fatima's the best of all king-size cigarettes.
At the meeting in the District Attorney's Office, it was decided that in the interests of justice, no criminal complaint be filed against Mrs. Marjorie Lewis. The baby was released to the custody of her and her husband.
Ladies and gentlemen, Betty Mills, Western representative of Radio and Television Mirror magazine.
The editors of Radio and Television Mirror are happy to announce that in the annual awards poll conducted by Radio and TV Mirror magazine, American radio listeners from coast to coast have voted Dragnet their favorite program of its type for the second consecutive year. In addition, the nation's radio listeners have voted Jack Webb their favorite dramatic radio actor.
Thank you very much, Betty, on behalf of our cast, our entire production staff, and myself.
Be sure to read the feature story about Jack Webb in the current issue of Radio and Television Mirror magazine, now on the newsstands.
have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Virginia Gregg, Harry Bartell, Helen Cleve. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Next, it's Mr. Kane, Tracer of Lost Persons, on NBC.